one would give Tyson a place to fight. Trump said, come to me, I'll give you a place to fight. Now, everybody can sit here and go, oh yeah, well, he just piggybacks off of the black man to make money. And that, to me, that's mental disorders. Because if you can't clearly see how somebody is willing to help people, and let's go into the stuff that he signed in for the African American colleges. I mean, that shows so much racism out of Trump too, right? So at what point from prior to 2000 to running in 2016, when did he exactly become racist? Can you answer that for me?
Well, it's going to be some of the statements. A total and complete ban on all Muslims entering the country. Folks thought that was intolerant towards...
So you think, okay, but you think that wasn't a good idea, but what's happening right now? Are you pretty proud of all the Muslims that are coming in and doing the damage that they're doing?
I'm not proud of all the blacks in my neighborhood. That don't mean I want to ban on all of them. I mean,
when you're at war, when you are struggling with that country in general, why wouldn't you at least want to put a travel ban on something when their mantra is death to America?
I would be more willing to agree with you when you said if you're dealing with a country and they're chanting death to America. He said a total and complete ban on all Muslims. That's a host of countries. In fact, that's a damn continent. In fact, it's more than just a continent, because all Muslims are not even in the Middle East. Some are in Africa, Asia. I mean, you're banning a lot of innocent people with a Muslim ban that wide.
100% true. And I don't agree with the innocent people. Unfortunately, the way that things are set up, you cannot decipher who is of that nature and who isn't.
Yeah,
that's why.
You could pass laws to do deeper background checks. You could ban folks coming from specific countries.
Then why haven't they done that at the border? Then why hasn't that been done?
Because Biden don't.
If they could have, they would.
Because right? Biden doesn't view folks coming across the border the same way folks on the right do. That's why they haven't done it.
Well, right. That's why Biden hasn't done it.
Right.
But as soon as Trump tries to do anything, he's labeled a racist then.
Well, let me give you another one. The Kung Flu virus. What the hell is that?
The what?
The Kung Flu virus.
Yeah, that was pretty stupid. I'm not going to lie. That was pretty stupid. That was pretty stupid. But it's not racist to say it's from China. It's from China. The China flu, it's from China. I mean, how many other things have we named after the exact continent or country of whatever flu it came from?
Well, here's the issue, though.
Malaria,
Hold on. Here's the issue. The COVID-19, known as the coronavirus, had an official name. He deliberately chose to call it the Kung Fu virus on his own. Folks are not going to view that as you love Chinese people.
And and I'm not sticking up for that. That, again, that's wrong. I don't agree with, that's the Kung. But when everybody inside that office is telling you that came from a fucking bat,
okay,
when really we all know that leaked from China, from a biolab in China. I mean, at some point, you do got to kind of get annoyed with everybody around you trying to set yourself up with this information. A bat?
Well, Ryan, as president of the United States, you know how much shit's going to annoy you. You can't just go and yell out. You can't just go out and yell out these crazy epithets anytime you're annoyed. Maybe you're not for the office.
You brought up the one. Is there any more than that?
Okay, I brought up the Muslim ban. I brought up the Kung Fu.
And I told you why I understood it, though.
Okay.
When you have people who say death to America, why would you allow them into your place?
So if a Christian says death to America, it's okay to ban all Christians.
But that's not the case, because a Christian wouldn't say that. This is a Christian country. This was built on a Christian foundation.
How do you wait? You just said no Christian on earth would say that?
Would say death to Christians?
Death to America. Death to America. No Christian would ever say that.
We shouldn't. Not that I know of. Any. You let me know. Any Christian I know. I've never met a Christian that said "Death to America."
Christians used to burn people like me in public square for fun. Why wouldn't they say
And
that?
those guys were severely wrong because they'd had no idea that Jesus was black. You're talking about the KKK. I don't fucking associate with them faggots. Fuck them.
But
Fuck them.
okay, but here's what I'm saying though. You have the ability to separate bad Christians from good Christians, but you're grouping all Muslims up in one category. You don't see the difference?
But Muslims aren't already here.
There is.
But I'm saying at the beginning, I'm not talking about like right this minute. I'm talking about prior to them coming over. I'm saying Christians were already here. It was founded on this. Now, they were obviously clearly wrong, and there was a lot of wrong that you guys can label on white people, but a lot of white people also fought for the same people to be free, and also a lot of white people don't like the KKK. So we can stop roping all white people into that category.
Let me say this, because this is coming from one of the friends of the program, Gabriel Reed, speaking on in behalf of what you're saying. He's saying, there you go being disingenuous. Tell you folks I don't ban a damn thing even when it's critical of me. Says, there you go being disingenuous. The travel ban on Muslims was not all Muslims. It was from 6 countries known to support extremism: Iran, Syria, Somalia, Libya, Iraq, and Sudan.
Which is pretty much what I said.
Which is also false. I've played that on this program numerous times. I don't have a third device on me to play it again. But if you simply type in on YouTube, Trump Muslim ban, you can hear him say, he don't name a damn country. He says, I'm calling for Congress to impose a total and complete ban on all Muslims entering America until we figure out what the hell is going on. He didn't name 6 countries. That's some things.
I don't understand what you feel is wrong with that.
You're banning people.
Hold on. He didn't say forever. He said until we can figure out. And in the 4 years, he had no time to try to figure that out, on top of every other lawsuit that he had to go through, on top of every other crisis. So give him another 4 years to try to figure that part out. But what I'm saying is yes, when you have a whole religion that is sitting there, the extremist part, saying, and caused already much turmoil in our country, 9/11, unless you're one of the people that think that was an inside job.
Here's the point I'm trying to make. There are a lot of people from Jordan, Kuwait, Syria, not Syria, but Saudi Arabia, the UAE. There's a lot of Muslims that are our friends. They're listening to this shit like, what? They have to wait until later on somebody yells, well, that was just locker room talk. He actually meant these 6 countries. He didn't say that when he released that statement. I
don't remember the exact statement that was made, but my relation to it is, if there is a whole bunch of people who do not like this country and want to destroy this country, and has made a vow through the extremist side to destroy us from the inside out, and now you look at what's happening today, and you're going to tell me that you don't think that that's what's exactly happening right now, then I'm sorry for you.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, if there are people who are chanting death to America or something like that, go after those people, not the whole damn religion. You don't go after the whole Muslim religion.
100%, but you have to stop it so that you can go, okay.
You don't go, none of that excuses going after a whole religion, Ryan. None of that does.
What?
You don't.
That doesn't excuse going for a whole religion. If they want death to America, that's the exact reason why you cut them off and say, okay, until we can come to some sort of common ground, you're not going to be allowed here.
Okay.
That's common sense.
All right,
that's like you at your house and you hear me at my house going, oh, fuck that guy. I hope he dies. And then my kid is friends with your kid and you go, oh, come on over.
So then I'm going to pose to you.
He was taught not to like me.
Okay.
His dad doesn't like me.
I get your point, but then how do you respond to someone like Sarah Jane D in the comments says, the KKK claims to be Christians. So should we say all Christians are KKK? What say you?
So Christians has so many denominations, and me personally.
And the Muslims do not.
Huh?
And the Muslims do not have many denominations.
I don't know that. I'm being honest. I don't know that.
All right. Okay. I got to move it on. You've been interesting, Carl, but I want to ask you this last one before I do. You've been good conversation. You can always come back. But Trump, his business having
You
a
didn't answer me, though. Wait, you didn't answer me, though. I
Well-
still have that question. When is it exactly that Trump became racist when he was so beloved by the black community? He was so beloved for the longest time. He was on Oprah's shows, and now everybody fucking hates the guy.
Oh, that's
Why?
easy. That is easy to answer. I get asked that all the time. If you look at Trump, if you listen to Trump, if you watch Trump when he was talking to the likes of Oprah Winfrey and all of those folks you're talking about, when he was beloved by the black community, listen to what he was talking about. Listen to his politics and compare it to now. Fact is, the people's view of Trump has changed because Trump has changed. He is saying things now that the black community and minorities would have never tolerated back in the Oprah days. That is why it's different.
What do you mean? Like what? Like how? What is he saying? Besides Muslims, which again, we can agree to disagree. I agree with a whole mess of extremists who have already caused so many, like the World Trade Center.
Wait, Ryan. Hold on, Ryan.
Yes.
He flat out said, I identify as a Democrat. That is in his past. During the Oprah time, he has stated that the economy is always better under Democrats. He has stated that Republicans are ignorant. He had a whole different opinion.
I'm sure he believed that at the time.
Well, then that's why people liked him. That's why some people liked him at the time. He was a different guy than he is now.
So when you switch parties, that's what makes you racist. Is that what I'm understanding? That was your response to me, is because he switched from Democrat to Republican?
Oh, no, he switched to a whole lot of other shit. He's pro-Confederate flag all of a sudden. I mean, he's pro...
Where was that?
Good people on both sides. He wouldn't have said that standing next to Oprah. He wouldn't have said nothing like that back then. He's a different dude.
Hold on a second. Do you really understand what he meant by there's good people on both sides?
Yeah,
Did you watch that whole thing? You're joking, right?
Yeah, I am not joking. Otherwise, I'd be cracking up laughing right now. I understood he meant the people who don't want the statues, some of them are good, and some of the guys with the Nazi helmets and saying they want to keep the statue, some of them are good. Yeah, I understood it. What did I miss?
So what would be wrong with understanding both sides? What would be wrong with being understanding?
What would be wrong with understanding why somebody black would not want you to be in favor of somebody wanting to defend a statue of somebody who was the equivalent of Hitler? I mean...
Okay, so it's okay if you're black, but if you're a white Christian who doesn't want the extreme Muslims in here, and we have no actual way of telling who's who right now, you're telling me that because you guys feel that way, it's okay. But when we feel that, hey, the ban on the Muslims was actually a decent idea, seeing that they want to kill us all, and look at what they're doing currently in our country.
It's a good question. And I can easily answer it by saying this. When it comes to the Muslim ban, you're admitting all Muslims didn't want to kill America, but he doesn't know, so he's saying this. When it comes to Confederates, they were all fighting on behalf of slavery. There is no way to separate. The whole group was fighting in unison to continue.
If you believe that Trump, honestly, was any part of him was okay with slavery, you've got to be high.
I don't know if he's okay with it or not. He's okay with the guys that are okay with it.
Assume that.
Let me ask you this question. Why do you believe so many...
He was also okay with the guys that were against it. So how can you draw a conclusion on one side or the other when he said there's good people on both sides and you automatically assume the worst?
Let's go with what you just said, because it makes perfect sense why somebody that's minority would say, well, if he's okay with blacks or minorities and he's okay with some of the races, if I go to a rally, how can I tell the difference?
Actually, Trump has been very vocal saying that he disavows any and all of those. He's said that hundreds of times. If you want, I'll tag you in a clip.
Well, he's also said...
Send it to your inbox.
Yeah, but Trump
has said it.
Yeah, but Trump has also said thousands of times he knows more about COVID than anybody. He knows more about the war in Afghanistan than the generals on the ground. Trump has said a lot of things.
At the time that he was saying that, was he not right? Because the people who were telling us differently were saying that it was from bat origins.
You're saying that
Apparently,
you're saying
when he was saying that it was from China, apparently he was right when he said he knew more because everybody else was telling us it was from bats.
then why the hell would he suggest using disinfectant and bleach if he actually knew all this?
Oh my God!
No, it's
You're
Tim.
right.
It's
We
Tim.
should-
You
we
can call
should
me that.
Probably go some separate ways.
Okay, I gotta move it on. I gotta move it on.
He talked about the process of ivermectin, and then he also talked about whitewashing your fucking blood cells. That's what he was talking about, was washing the blood cells and whole thing, brother.
Okay. All right.
Whole
Listen.
thing.
Listen.
He was not saying drink bleach.
Okay. Well, we can agree to disagree. Enjoyed the conversation. Unfortunately, I do have other people. I have people holding on, but anytime, come on back through. All right, moving.
God bless.
You too, by the way. This guy has an excuse for everything. That says Thomas Hamilton said he had an excuse for everything. Looking in the comments, great representation of MAGA, says Limitless Jones. Yikes. So you don't erase your own history, though, sir. You need to understand and have reminders of the past evils or you're doomed to repeat it. Yes, Ken, great comment. You don't need to erase your own history. Let me just say it this way. When America defeated Saddam Hussein in Iraq, they took down a host of statues of Saddam Hussein. He had statues every damn where in that country. They took them down. You see the pictures of the kids hitting them with the bottom of their shoe because that is the sign of disrespect in Iraq. All of the statues came down. Do you think that erased the history of Saddam Hussein? I don't know why folks suggest taking down a statue erases history. History happened. It doesn't go away because the statue's not there. I've mentioned before, Penn State coach Joe Paterno. Remember the whole pedophilia scandal? The coach of Penn State was very successful, had a statue of him in front of the stadium. Once he got caught up in that pedophilia scandal, they took down his statue. Does that erase the history of Joe Paterno? No, it doesn't. You don't lose history by taking down a statue. And I will say this also in regards to the second part of that statement, which is if you erase history, you're doomed to repeat it. Fact is, the reason those statues went up in the first place is because they weren't being truthful about history. Go to any Confederate statue and look at they all have a plaque on the bottom of them telling you a little bit about the guy that's on the statue. None of that talks about any of the horrors that the Confederacy perpetrated on their victims. Ain't none of that on there. That is not accurate history you're reading there. It's omitting all kinds of stuff. So even though the statue is up, it's not even accurate. So just take that in consideration. There's so much evil that the Confederacy perpetrated on their victims that was wiped completely from history. So you got folks still suggesting now it's just all about pride and heritage. There's so many stories. I would submit to you this. The actions of the Confederacy in America are very similar to the Third Reich. The only reason they are treated differently is because the Confederacy prevented a lot of their factual information from becoming known, yet we know what the Third Reich was doing. There's all types of villages that were pilfered and burned, rapes, all of that was happening down in the South. They don't tell you all of that stuff. They do tell you about the Third Reich. So we know the evils of the Third Reich, but we often celebrate and honor the Confederacy because they got a chance to lie about what actually happened. That has been erased from history. You want to talk about erasing history? That actually has been erased from history. Looking in the box, appreciate you folks that are tapping the screen. My last guest got a little extra time. Very interesting guest. Certainly get the likes up to around 35,000, almost 1,000 of you in here. Payback. Love the name. Welcome to the program. Payback. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for having me on. I always try to get on here in this time because I'm usually working at this time, but I never get on. And the last few times you let me up, I was having microphone issues.
It happens to the best of us. So,
Am I coming out clear though?
yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool.
So you've been listening in. I'll give you the floor.
I think it's hilarious when people like the last caller comes up and they will do everything in the world to defend the indefensible that comes out of Donald Trump, but then unless it's something that fits their narrative. The reason why Donald Trump switched from the Democrat Party to the Republican Party was because he ran for president as a Democrat and he got no support for it. And he realized that he could manipulate the Republican Party into what he did today, which is now, consuming the Republican Party. And it's just funny to see them put themselves in the pretzels asking how Donald Trump is racist and why people don't like him anymore. We don't like him anymore because he ran for president, he beat Hillary Clinton, and then he did all of these atrocious things that are indefensible. And this is a perfect example of how he said, well, not all white people, support the KKK, but then he was totally fine with banning all Muslims because of one incident, which is completely contradictory to what he was saying, which is always what they do on the right-wing side of politics. It's hilarious to me.
So then let me ask you, do you believe that President Trump has shown signs of being intolerant or bigoted?
100% he has, but what I think in my mind is that it's just that he panders. He panders to whatever side is going to give him the most attention, and regardless if it's good or bad, because he's that much of a narcissist, he panders to racism. He doesn't have to, but he chooses to just because that's where the support of his base comes from.
Now, in regards to what we were talking about with the last caller, Anarchy Television said that the Confederate soldiers were fighting for freedom. Is there any validity to that in your opinion?
Absolutely not. We know what they were fighting for. They were fighting to keep control of being able to have slaves. There's no truth to that. But the reason why they say these things is to justify justify what the war was really about, or try to deflect about what the war was really about is where that argument always comes from.
Yeah, and I would add to that, if they were fighting for freedom, had they won, do you think the blacks would have been free? They weren't fighting for freedom. It's kind of humorous, but I did want to read that. Go ahead.
Exactly. That's just a ridiculous point to think that they were fighting for freedom, and exactly that. So if they won, things would have been exactly the way they were, and who knows? We might not even be having this conversation today if they had won.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the fact that they lost and how they continue treating minorities in the area, it's pretty clear they wasn't fighting for freedom. I don't know where that comes from, but that is when folks say if you don't preserve history, you're doomed to repeat it. There's been so many lies and falsehoods told about that. It's hard to get to the truth because they've done such a good job in hiding it.
No, 100%. But I think that's all a part of whitewashing history to make it seem like the Civil War wasn't that bad, because some people, I think, genuinely believe in it. And, and they honestly don't want to say the quiet part out loud, but, it's crazy to think that somebody would ever tell you at this day and age that they were, the Civil War was about fighting for freedom, or, if we tear down statues that praise, what the Confederacy was about, we're erasing history. It's a ridiculous argument.
Yeah. To me, the Confederates would be the equivalent of war criminals. But let me ask you this, because maybe according to one of my friends on the program on the YouTube side, Gen X, is suggested that perhaps maybe we're judging Trump a little bit from a biased perspective. He's tied it into the trial that Trump is currently dealing with Alvin Bragg in New York. He states that in this is why Donald J. Trump can never get a fair and impartial trial either way. You either love the guy or you hate him. There's very little middle ground on Trump. I tend to agree with him. What say you?
Well, this is the thing too. Like all of the people that are saying, because Trump does what Trump always does is he muddies the water. He muddies the water, so by the time somebody can come to their senses, they're so deluded with all the shit that he's throwing at them, they don't know what to believe. Every single judge that has brought that's presiding over his criminal cases, in some way or another, has been labeled corrupt or all this other stuff, and it's literally just to sow distrust in the court of public opinion, which is all he knows how to do. He's done it his entire career. When the news doesn't give him favorable comments, they're fake news. Unless, it's somebody like Newsmax or Fox that, praises him or kisses his ass, and then all of a sudden, they're the best news network in the world. So it's been his MO for the last probably 40 years. He even admitted it on an interview with Barbara Walters. He says, "Yeah, I have to say that the news is fake."
Well, I got to give him credit. It certainly has been very effective. I got to move it on, Payback. Appreciate you finally getting through. Always open to you.
Thank you, sir. Have a blessed day.
Hey, you too. Same. All right, I don't know what the hell happened here, but moving the program on. I do appreciate you folks tapping the screen. We should be around 50,000 likes if you let your thumbs not be lazy. 900 plus of you in here, so certainly tap the screen. We're talking about, have you seen any intolerance? And we're not just bashing Trump. A lot of you folks would suggest you've seen it coming from Biden as well. Feel free to state that, because we're tackling it from both of these folks. I'm asking that question. Yeah. Have you seen any behaviors, wording, policies, or anything coming from either Trump or Biden that would symbolize intolerance? Now, when I say intolerance, we're not just talking about racism. It could be homophobia. It could be sexism. All of the isms, intolerance. And then, of course, we're asking, is Israel potentially leading America down a path of war, considering we're just following them, and they're currently constantly involved in military conflicts. They just attacked Iran last night. So is Israel operating on the worst interest of America? Looking in the comments, it's always funny watching black people being Trump fans. It's like Jewish people voting for Hitler. Wow. People on YouTube. Damn. Is it really that bad? 100 million plus Trumpers in counting, says Tommy Brown Jr. What? The country only has 350 million people in it. 100 plus million Trumpers and counting. Now, what did Biden get? Supposedly 80 million votes or whatever the hell it was last time. Trump got 74 million. Around 160 million people voted. You think Trump's going to beat Biden 100 plus million? That would leave about 60 million for Trump. Wow. Looking in the comments real quick. Liberals loved Trump when he was a Democrat. Forever Kelly. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. No more than Republicans love Mike Pence, love Chris Christie, love Nikki Haley when they agreed with what they were saying. I don't disagree with that at all. The news is ignoring that Biden can't finish a sentence. Depends on what kind of news you're watching, Gray Cloud. It's all over right-wing media. Biden could be involved in Biden could be on top of his wife and they would repeat what he was yelling out as he can't talk right. I mean, they're all over that. What do you mean they ain't saying, they're not repeating that? It's all over the damn place. Not to mention it's coming out of Trump's mouth constantly. Mr. Host, do you know who owned the boats on which your ancestors transported after being sold by African warlords? I don't think it matters. I mean, you're suggesting that blacks sold blacks into slavery, which is a fact. A lot of them did. I don't know if they had a choice, but let's go with that. Blacks sold blacks into slavery, and they allowed them, what you're suggesting is they allowed them to use the boats that they owned to transport the slaves over here. Okay, what does that mean? I mean, if I sell you my underage child and I give you my car to take her to a hotel and get involved, does that excuse your behavior as a damn pedophile? Because I sold her to you, you bought her, and you used my damn car to take her to a hotel to have your way with her. So as a pedophile, you get a pass? Who gives a damn? Evil is evil. I don't get the point on that. They sold them. You don't have to buy people. Buying people is evil. I don't give a damn who sells them to you. They bought people. And let's also take in consideration this. If a black chief, warlord, or whatever the hell he is, sells a person into slavery, his actions is evil. He deserves to go to hell, but he's selling you one person. When you take that person to the new land and you rape them to make more people and you enslave their entire family tree, you don't get to go back and say, well, you know, your great-great-great-great-great-grandfather sold you to my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather 200 years ago. And my whole family has been enslaving your entire family tree since. But we want to blame that guy who sold your original ancestor 200 years ago. Is that the point we're trying to make? Let me know. Give me clarity. Going back to the box. One guy sells you a slave and you enslaved a whole family tree, and somehow what that one guy did is equal to that. Going back to the box. Clinton Walston, good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Trump is the only president to have no connection to slavery. I like that. I like that. Clinton, good afternoon.
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. So we're asking that. Have you seen any signs of intolerance, hatred, bigotry from Trump or Biden?
I've seen a little from Biden.
Give me an example.
Well, I mean, what white guy passes a criminal law bill and then turns around and eats fried chicken with them?
Did that happen? He passed the crime bill. He passed the crime
bill. Then he goes in there and eats chicken with them. But I mean, everyone wants to call Trump a racist. And here, like I told you before, he's on Soul Train kicking it with the brothers and the sisters, and they want to call him racist. Come on, dude. I mean.
Well, let's start with the crime bill. We can get into the fried chicken. And by the way, damn, that sounds good. But let's get into the crime bill. Do you believe that crime? Assuming you're talking about the '94 crime bill, do you believe that the passing of that crime bill makes him a racist?
Well, I mean, look at what he said. I mean, there's plenty of video evidence where he was talking about, you know, black folk causing trouble, and a lot of the people who was arrested was black and everything, and then he passes that bill. Does that not kind of look racist to you?
I can certainly see where that's coming from. I can certainly see that. But here's the issue, though. I do believe most black people during that time dealing with the heavy crack epidemic, and you know, my father died from that shit. I think during that time, most black people were in favor of what he was doing.
Was in favor of what? I'm sorry.
In favor of cracking down pretty damn hard on drug dealers.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, it's drug dealing and drug using and stuff's just not black and. I mean, it's not a black situation, a black and white situation. It's a Hispanic situation. It's a whole world situation. And the thing about it is, I mean, go to Aberville, Alabama. Look down there and you'll see a Hispanic car lot with, you know, $7 million worth of cars on it, and then people ain't been over here probably 10 years. How in the world do you do that? I've been working for 30 and can't afford, you know, nothing but bologna sandwiches. Come on.
Well, Melania Trump ain't been here that long, has she? She's doing all right. I mean, some people come here and they do well pretty quick.
I wish I was one of them people. But anyway, what I'm getting at is Melania Trump comes from a fairly wealthy family, plus she married into money too, though.
Yeah, I mean, some people find ways to do well quicker than others. I mean, some people just simply are more hungry or more savvy. Some people get lucky. I mean, there's ways of it happening.
I mean, you're correct.
So in regards to, let's finish up with Biden. Is there anything else other than that crime bill you believe that Biden, because that is 30 years ago. Anything more recent where you see him, because he's apologized for that. We can take it as we may. Maybe folks don't, you know, accept his apology or whatever. But obviously the 94 crime bill is 30 years ago this year, and he's apologized for it profusely. Is there anything else you believe that you've seen from Biden that illustrates intolerance?
Well, I mean, you know, he was talking about if you ain't black, you don't vote for me, you're not black. Well, I mean, what the hell is that?
I get it, and folks have held him accountable for that. But I mean, then I hate to deflect, but I'm going to ask you this: President Trump stated that if you are Jewish and you vote Democrat, it means you hate Israel and your religion. How is that not the same? You know, vote for me or you ain't Jewish. I mean, he kind of said the same thing.
Well, I ain't Jewish, and I vote for him.
Yeah, but I'm saying you understand the nature of vote for me or you ain't black. But if Trump says if you're Jewish and you vote Democrat, it means you hate Israel, you hate your own religion. I mean, isn't that a similarity to vote for me or you ain't black?
Well, I mean, I don't see that, but I guess.
You don't see any similarity at all.
No, I mean, that's a faith. That's not a color.
Okay, so it could be anti-Semitic.
Could be.
Okay.
I mean, look at it this way. Look at it this way, Tim. You know, everybody thinks most 90% of the people in the South racist. Okay?
I don't believe it.
Just because I got a rebel flag tag on the front of my truck don't mean I'm racist.
Well,
I mean, that flag has nothing to do with anything. It has heritage. People say it's not heritage. It's hate. No, it's heritage.
Well, if it's heritage, can you explain to me why hate groups like the Klan, like white supremacist groups, have continued to use the Confederate flag for at least 100 years? Why do they see so much favoritism in that flag? Why do they like it so much if it doesn't mean hate? The hate groups are using it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't condone that. I don't.
How do we know?
That's not right.
How do we know?
It's just like white skinheads using Nazi flags. We don't live in Germany. I mean, they use them flags as a symbol. That symbol is like of old South. It's not to me, I don't see racism like that.
Okay. Well, but Clinton, you're talking about yourself personally. Let me give you this example. You seen what happened in Charlottesville when they were trying to take down the statue, Trump, good people on both sides. You seen the mess that happened in Charlottesville. In fact, anytime they're trying to take down one of these statues, the folks who support the Confederates show out in numbers. But when the Klan goes to these cities and they're preaching hate with the Confederate flag on their shoulder or they're waving it around, the folks who support the Confederate flag do not show out to protest at all. They don't want the statues moved, but they're fine with these groups preaching hate while waving the flag. How are other folks supposed to view that?
I mean, everybody to their own. If you see it as I don't like them taking the statue.
That's not what I'm asking you. I'm saying we see the passion for defending the Confederacy when statues come down, but when they're wearing the flag and preaching hate, the passion disappears. We don't see Confederate supporters protesting the Klan ever. I mean, they've had numerous rallies, always waving that flag. And no one who defends the statue shows up to protest that. Why is that?
I don't know. You'll have to ask them that because I don't belong to the Klan.
But you do understand.
I've not seen a Klan member in 30 years.
Right, but you do understand. You do understand the message of how that looks, right?
Yeah, I mean, I see you can view it two different ways. You can view it like it pisses them off because they're taking the statues down, or you can view it hey, they're just here causing trouble. I can't speak for them because I'm not them. But I can tell you this: what's wrong with having statues that teaches history?
Where you're losing me at though is you're admitting taking down the statues pissed them off. But when the folks have the flag on their arm patch or somewhere and they're preaching nothing but hatred, there is a lack of pistivity for creation of a word. There is nobody showing up pissed off when they're out there talking about how they hate whole groups of people. They only seem to have a passion when a statue is coming down. But if you lead a statue up and preach hatred, they seem to be okay with that. Does that shock you at all?
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's a group of people. That's a group of people. Just like Black Lives Matter, that's a group of people. Black folk can't help what Black Lives Matter does. Why can I help white folk help what the Klan does?
There are heaps. Well, first of all, there's heaps of black people who speak out against burning down buildings and shit like that. A lot of black folks speak out against that. But what I'm saying is there is a strong passion to preserve those statues and zero passion to stop folks from wearing the flag while preaching hatred. That doesn't look right.
I'll tell you this much: if you'll Google it, and a lot of people don't realize this because it's not taught in history books. The only thing that's taught in history books is racism and hate. The thing about it is, you got an open wound on a sore on your leg or your arm, you keep picking at it, it's going to stay open. You know, racism is not like it used to be 30 years ago. Everybody has to agree on that.
Well,
But
I don't disagree.
I
don't disagree with that.
slave owner,
Go ahead.
the largest slave owner ever that owned slave was from North South Carolina, and he was black. He owned 1,000-something slaves, and he was black. But that's not talked about. That's what we're getting at here.
Yeah, but
If they're going to talk about white,
here's the problem with that. Clinton, here's the problem with that. We know for a fact, I think everybody watching can agree, in America, from the time we became a country, at least until damn near the 1970s, if not 1980s, history was not taught by black people. It was not taught by minorities. All of the history books in schools, even when I was a child, were produced and written by white people. So if history was not taught accurately, like you're talking about, whether it's the Irish slaves that nobody knows about or black people who owned slaves, it wasn't because minorities mistaught history. Why would they leave that out?
I guess if we had this conversation the other day, I guess it's people who printed the books.
Yeah, they were deliberately lying to people. They were deliberately lying. Why would someone who wants to whitewash history deliberately hide the fact that black people were the largest owner of slaves? Seemed like they would have put that in the book, don't you think?
But would they have taught it? That's the thing.
Well, they taught every damn thing else. Why would you not teach this?
I can't tell you who wrote the books. Can't tell you why they left it out. It was just left out of history.
All right, and you notice there were no parents showing up to school council members meetings, rather, like they do with the LGBT community. Nobody was showing up complaining why that wasn't in the books. Nobody was trying to ban this incorrect history book like they are now trying to ban books like Anne Frank, which is completely accurate. The Diary of Anne Frank is completely accurate. I don't know. That's what I'm asking you, Clinton. It seems like the passion to protest these subjects is literally biased and misdirected.
I agree with you, though. It's misdirected. It's like some of the history is there, and some of it's taught, but it's only what they want you to know.
Well said.
That's what's keeping racism alive. It's not. You know, it's like like I told you, just like an open wound. You know, I'm a parent of 3 kids in school, single dad. Hell, I'm kind of afraid to go to the damn parent meeting, afraid the FBI knock on my damn door.
Let me ask you this, because you said you have a rebel flag on your vehicle. What do you think what do you think in your humble opinion that flag means to you, and what do you think other folks like minorities, what do you think it means to them? Better yet, when it comes to minorities, do you even give a damn what they think of it? But what do you think that flag represents?
I think it represents my Southern heritage that I live in the South. It don't remind me of slavery. It don't remind me of anything but the South. That's it. Okay. That's my heritage. I mean, you know, everybody, you know, we can't have Indian history. You know, it's like I told you before when we get back on the subject. And I'm Cherokee Indian. My kids are Cherokee Indian. My grandkids, my great-grands will be Cherokee Indians, and it'll go out. But that's not, a lot of that's not taught. It's because it's mainly left out because they want to leave it out. They want that part of history to die.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask it to you this way, because we know in this country, predominantly due to the slave trade, almost all blacks in this country came in by way of the South. The overwhelming majority of us came in through the southern states. So just about every black person in this country that have ancestry from that period, we all are descendants from the South. My ancestry is my mom's side of the family, Memphis. My dad's side of the family was Hattiesburg, Mississippi. That's where all of us who have descendants come from the South. Any idea if the Confederate flag represents the pride and heritage of the South, why virtually nobody black flies that flag, even though all of us originate from the South? Any idea why that is?
Well, I know plenty of black folk that fly that flag.
Where are you at that you see black folks driving around with the Confederate flag all over the place?
What's Daniel Flash name?
Huh?
Look up Daniel Sims in Alabama.
Okay. So you're saying in the South there's black folks, other than just one guy named Daniel Sims, there are plenty of black folks roaming around with the Confederate flag flying it.
I've seen several. I've seen What a lot of books ain't taught, like you're talking about. A lot of books ain't taught. There's actually blacks fought for the South.
Well, I don't think they had much of a chance. What do you think? Let me, considering that you mentioned your ancestors, had your ancestors won the Confederate flag, won the Civil War, rather, had they won the Civil War, what do you think they would have done to blacks who were up to that point in captivity? What do you think how do you think that would have fared for black people?
I think it would have been longer, like a longer slavery, but I don't think it would have been that much longer because times change, ways change. And, you know, I mean, when you go to talking about periods about like that, yeah, they used them for manual labor, but they also, I mean, you know, there's people walks by today and you know, my granddaddy, your granddaddy, they nobody picked cotton over 200 years past.
But
times change.
You say times change. How, even after the Confederates lost the Civil War and the president up north, Abraham Lincoln, forced them to be free, how did they continue treating black people after they lost the war? Because you're saying if they had won, slavery would have lasted, but it would have soon ended. How did they treat them after they lost the war?
They got 40 acres and a mill. Okay, they were the ones that actually left and went up north. What a lot of history books don't teach you is, and you can reference this and find it for yourself. Google it. That once they went north, they wouldn't let them on no kind of land up north. So if you can't own,
they had land in the South. I don't know if my caller had a caller.
up north. Period. Buy land, own land.
Okay, so you're saying,
I mean, and then
so
in the South.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so you admitted that if they had won, if your ancestors had won, slavery would have went on maybe a little bit longer. So is it safe to say, because you pointed out black people fighting on behalf of the Confederacy, is it safe to say that they were fighting against their own best interests when they were fighting for the Confederates?
I think they were fighting for their way of life. I mean, because you ever seen that movie, Free State of Jones?
No. Fighting for their, wait, you said fighting for their way of life. They were fighting to maintain slavery?
No, they were fighting because some of the, I mean, yeah, they were bad slave owners. They was white slave owners, black slave owners, but they had a house down here. They had a family. They had food. They had shelter.
They didn't have anything.
They had a way of life.
They didn't have any, wait, they didn't have anything
to they couldn't even own land.
They
I mean, where are you going to live if you don't own land?
You're suggesting that during the period of slavery, black people owned land and had their own homes and everything? Okay, my caller, obviously Clinton.
They had houses they lived in on the plantation. They had.
Okay, Clinton, I'm gonna have to move on. You got a signal issue, but I do appreciate Clinton comes on the program all the time. Certainly welcome back anytime, but you had we had a signal issue, Clinton, so I did have to drop you. Looking in the comments, well, yeah, anytime. Looking in the comments, that's why true history is important. I agree with that, big man, because there's so many people in this country that have a different take on what history is about. My last caller has a totally different viewpoint of what happened in the Confederate South than a lot of the viewers, than me personally. And he has a lot of people that agree with him. So clearly there is a mix-up somewhere. There's a lot of people that see the Confederate flag and think pride and heritage of the South, and a lot of other people that think it's evil and it represents hate. History could have cleared that up. In my humble opinion, if we just simply told about the atrocities of the Confederate South, I don't think it would really be up for debate. I think there's so many mass graves, rapes, acts of pedophilia, brutality that didn't make it in the history books that it's easy to suggest it is for pride and heritage. But if you actually knew, because I'll say it this way, I've said this before. If Germany had won World War II, the Holocaust would have never happened. You'd have never heard about it. Just a bunch of Jewish people are still missing. Maybe they were fighting on behalf of the war. They came up missing or something like that. For all we know, the Italians got them. Maybe some of the American soldiers, the GIs, got evil and killed some of them. That's how the story would have been told. Because people who do wrong don't want it to come out in the open. They try to hide it. And fortunately for the Confederates in this country, they were allowed to write history. I'll go back to the box real quick, but I'll just tell you flat out, right after the Civil War, when minorities were free in the South, just like when we left Afghanistan to prevent the Taliban from continuing to oppress people, we left behind a contingent of American soldiers. Allies were in Afghanistan for a while. So the Taliban could not continue oppressing their citizens over there. Now that we've left, they're doing it again. That happened in the South after the Civil War. After the South was defeated, Abraham Lincoln left federal soldiers in the South to defend blacks, defend minorities from being oppressed, just like against the Taliban. During that period of time, you started having black people rise up, became congressmen, started getting involved in politics and everything. The next president, after Abraham Lincoln got assassinated, the next president withdrew all of that federal support. And the Confederate South removed all of that black progress. You didn't have another black person in Congress for damn near 100 years. But that's how it happens. That is how it happens. So folks go, well, see, you had black congressmen in the South. Yeah, because they were being protected by the feds. And once the feds left, they went right back to the... So I disagree a little bit with my last caller suggesting that things would have got better for black people had the South won the Civil War. Because you look at the day the Civil War ended and the day Martin Luther King was able to score civil rights for folks down South, and you notice there's a 100-year span there. So clearly they were still trying to treat them wrong for a very, very long time. Looking in the comments, though, what is that breaking news somebody said? Going back to the box. I don't know what just happened with the last thing there, but Beard and Politics. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program, Beard.
Yes, sir.
Hey, so I assume you've been listening in. What's on your mind, Beard? I'll give you the floor.
Oh, I've just been, I always like chiming in when I can. That I got to tell you right off the bat, you got a lot more patience for some of these folks than I do.
I like hearing from the folks. I'm going to ask you that question, though. Do you see any level of intolerance coming from Biden or Trump? Do you see either one of these individuals as intolerant?
Oh, I absolutely see Donald Trump as actually being intolerant, and just kind of address like that last caller that you had was talking about, Biden saying all this stuff like, oh, you don't vote for me, you ain't black, all that. I'm not saying that's good, but I don't think it comes from a place of intolerance as much as it comes from the man's 80.
Yeah. Well, Trump is old too, so should Trump not be given that same excuse?
You see, I would have to say no, right? Because we can read into intent, right? Like that's a big part of how we try to interpret what people are saying and what they mean when they say certain words or certain phrases. You have to interpret meaning. Now, granted, none of us know what's going on in Biden's head. None of us know what's going on in Trump's head. So we could be wrong about how we read that intent. But then you start putting patterns behind that theory. And I feel like, Muslim ban, calling migrants rapists, criminals, all that. It's not great, there's good people on both sides of a Nazi rally,
But when he said there's good people on both sides, folks are going to suggest you're taking that out of context. He was simply talking about the folks that were there peacefully protesting and defending the statue. Oftentimes when Trump says something and it comes across as controversial, the first thing you hear is it is being taken out of context. Is it possible that was happening in regards to that good people on both sides?
No, because you look at who organized that, like who organized that Confederate Yahtzee protests and whatnot, Again, you read into intent, you look at the people that are behind these things. I cannot say that if I showed up to a Yahtzee rally and nobody was doing anything violent and they were just standing around peacefully protesting, I still wouldn't say that there are any good people at this peaceful Yahtzee protest.
Well, but what about the notion that, like my last caller said, that they're not racist, they're just defending their pride and heritage in regards to these statues and the stars and bars?
So, on the one hand, I'm not going to deny that there are absolutely people that think that, but when you look into, the history of how that became a thing, like it's not like the Confederate flag has always been representative of that for these people, right? Like it started coming up as like a symbol of like, yeah, the South will rise again, the Confederacy will come back, we will do these things. And
I don't know. I mean, let me just interrupt to say this. I don't know. I mean, you can go back and find pictures as far back. I've personally seen well before the 1920s when they had really poor photography of Klan. They were already using the Confederate flag. I mean, they've been using that flag for well over 100 years. Why, I mean,
Klan, absolutely.
Yeah,
the Klan were one of the first to popularize it.
Yeah.
I'm talking more about like when it became part of like popular Southern culture to be waving that at different things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That did come a little bit later, but I think that's because the Klan, especially back then, was really good at disseminating hate into mainstream culture.
Yeah, and that's what I'm confused about is that why is there so many people that do see it as more of a friendly symbol and not one of hatred? When, like I said, any Klan rally, you're seeing that flag waving around.
Well, so a lot of that has to do with there is a lot of propaganda to make people think that in the South, like in the South, people will still be taught that the Civil War was the war of Northern aggression, right? It wasn't about slavery. It was about states' rights. Well, a states' right to do what, right? What are they going to do with those states' rights? Yeah. And it's between stuff like that. Like, look at who's writing the history books right now, right? The biggest supplier of history textbooks in our country is located in Texas. And this is a real controversial thing that's happening right now because this proposed textbook that's going through literally lists Moses as a founding father of the United States.
Is that for real?
And we're going to start,
is that for real?
That is for real.
Moses is one of the wow. That is really rewriting history, doing some shit like that. I have not heard that. I see a lot of folks saying yes. Wow, Moses.
Yeah, it is fucking insane. Like, and here's the thing, right? This comes back to, the failures of, oh God, what was it called when Lincoln was gonna occupy the South after the war? What was that called?
You said Lincoln was going to do what?
Occupy the South after the Civil War.
Well, he actually did do that for a short time. He actually did do that.
Yes, and then he unfortunately it didn't stick and whatnot.
Well, yeah, once he was assassinated, I think it was Woodrow Wilson or whatever the next president was, they didn't continue that. And once they withdrew it, that's when all of the folks, well, we can have our way. Kind of like with the states' rights thing right now with abortion, where the federal government was kind of forcing the states to allow women to have, have freedom of choice. Once the federal government gave the states their power back, well, they did what they wanted to do.
Right. Reconstruction, I see in the comments now. Reconstruction is what I was talking about. But yeah, with the whole thing with like abortion and the rights going on right now, well, we see even with that, there's this large pushback now, right? Where Donald Trump's all of a sudden saying, hey, actually, states' rights for this, right? And now you have like Lindsey Graham and all these other Republicans coming out and saying, no, this is a national project. We don't want the states to decide this.
Mike.
For a long time, but now we're taking the mask off a little bit, right? We want to just make this a national ban.
Yeah, something for those who, and this is generally to my beloved MAGA folks on the right who do say it's not a federal intention, but just states' rights. I have two issues. First of all, you're right. Mike Pence, Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, and even Trump stated it could go federal. But the other issue is this. If you truly are for protecting the sanctity of life for the unborn, why would you only want to do it in your state? If you know a woman wants to terminate her pregnancy, and she just has to go across the river on the other side of another state and get it terminated, if you have any control, you're going to try to prevent that. I mean, if you truly are about saving lives, you're not going to be okay with somebody crossing a river and taking a child's life on the other side. So the idea that it's not going to be federal is disingenuous. Just look at it this way. If the Democrats were able to get some type of states' rights to limit the Second Amendment, would you ever believe they're going to stop at states' rights? So, yeah, I agree with you The goal is to do it federally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, can you imagine that too, though? You imagine like California putting like a straight up ban on firearms, on the Second Amendment and all that. Like states' rights would mean nothing to every Republican in this country, and honestly, a lot of independents and Democrats even.
Yeah.
But I think that at the end of the day, like states' rights is very much just kind of code at this point for, hey, this is what we got to call this for now.
Yeah, everybody is against big government until big government does something they favor. I do got to move it on, though, Beard. Thank you for coming through.
Absolutely. Love coming on every time. Yeah, have a good day.
You too. Absolutely a pleasure. Looking in the comments, someone said, I wanted to respond to that comment, but I guess it moved on. Trash above your right shoulder. Here's my right shoulder. Oh, my God. I'm slow today. I'm slow. You're going to suggest my piece of apparel is that's wrong. That is wrong. Be kind to the makers of this lovely hat. But that was funny. It took me a minute to catch that. Looking in the comments, host, please understand that the guest was lying about the textbook. I hope you're right. Chase Dams, I think that says you're saying the guest was lying about the notion that there's textbooks suggesting that Moses was a member of the founding fathers. I hope you're right. I hope he was lying about that, because that's bad. That's bad. I concur on that hat, Brett the Hitman. So we're asking that question right off the bat. Have you seen any intolerance between Biden and Trump? Have you seen any intolerance coming from either one of them? And yet Biden apologized to an illegal that raped and killed an innocent female. So felony, I agree with you. That was ridiculous. The individual that died down there in Georgia at the hands of an illegal immigrant, Biden referred to that. I think Biden referred to the person as an illegal at the State of the Union or something like that. But Biden did call him an illegal immigrant. And the left, in my opinion, the far left, chastised him. And he later apologized and referred to him as an undocumented. Biden should be smart enough to see through that, okay? If you know what they're coming at you for, okay, listen, if it makes you happy, he's a fucking murderer. Just say that. I'm not going to backtrack on calling him an illegal immigrant. If you got a problem with me calling him an illegal, let's just call him a fucking murderer. That's what Biden should have said. Let's just call him what he's been charged and eventually will be convicted of. He's a fucking murderer. Does that make you happy? That's what Biden should have did, as opposed to trying to, correct his labeling of the guy based on whether he's here or not legally. He caved and it made him look a bit soft. He should be a little bit more wise of that. Looking in the comments, Trump calls citizens that agree with him vermin. And that's a tribute to Hitler, says James Taylor. Yeah, it is. It is another one of those things, in my opinion, that makes him, but there's folks who can interpret any of Trump's statements to mean something else. Poison in the blood of the country, vermin, rapists and murderers, you name it. Folks do have a different way of viewing that stuff. So we'll go with that. But there's a lot of folks in this country that are very successful, law-abiding Americans now, have served in the military that originally came here illegally. There's a lot of folks, generations, have came here that way, and they're not viewed. So obviously the vermin, it's not accurate. It's not accurate. They're not all that. So, but a lot of folks do feel that way. I guess the word vermin should be banned if it can't be said. No, I don't think you should ban the word vermin. I don't think you should ban the word vermin. Doesn't that refer to an animal or something like that? Not a human being? You don't ban it. You just point out when it's used out of context. I mean, no, you don't ban the word. Mine came in like that. No, I'm lying. This was their land. Oh, yo, I hear you. It was my land. So how the hell can I be coming here illegally? Going back to the box, it is Bobo. Thank you, folks, for tapping the screen. Not a lot of love for the program today. We got almost 1,000 of you in here. It is a controversial topic. I get it. but tap the screen, get the likes up to around 90,000. We can certainly do that on YouTube. Smash that like button. Shooting for 20 to start out with on YouTube. Bobo, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How you doing there, brother?
I don't know right now. I'm in the trenches. I'm being told that Biden is an intolerant fellow. What say you?
Oh my! I say these folks have lost their rabbit minds.
That kind of sounds. I used to have a relative say you lost your rabbit ass mind. I've heard that term. That goes way back. So you don't see any intolerance from Biden?
You know, I see people twisting words.
Give me an example.
I see people making comments. So they said that, but you know, the statement that we've been talking about, we've used several times here already today. Biden said, if you ain't black, if you ain't voting for me, you ain't black.
Right.
Do we know what that meant?
Yes. But give me
No, we
give
don't
me
know
your
what it
take.
meant.
Give me
But
your take.
us black folks, my take on that was, if you ain't smart, you ain't voting for Biden, because we already know what Trump looking to do. That's how I heard that.
You know, in my opinion, I get why people see it as an intolerant statement, but in my opinion, I do believe a lot of African Americans heard it something like that. If you don't like watermelon, you ain't black, or if you don't like ribs, you ain't from the South. I do believe that's how a lot of Americans heard it that way. A lot of blacks heard it that way.
And I'm gonna tell you the God's honest truth. If you don't like fried chicken, you just ain't human.
I heard that. I heard that. I can't disagree with that. So you don't see Biden's statement as racist at all?
No, I don't see it as racist. No more than I see Trump, you know, because let's be real. We're talking about an anti-Semitic statement that was made by Trump, and everybody's just glazing right over that.
Give me an example. What do you mean?
Oh, when he said about the Jews.
Yeah. And you are correct. It was.
Like religion. He
Yeah.
didn't just attack your race. He attacked your religion, your moral standing, your whole lifestyle.
Yeah.
He didn't just attack your race. He attacked it all.
You know, it's interesting you bring that up because, yeah, Trump did say if you're Jewish and you vote Democrat, you hate your religion, you hate Israel. And you're correct. It got glossed over. Vote for me, you ain't black has been repeated 1,000,000 times. Trump just said that a month or two ago. And, yeah, for the most part, it did get glossed over, even though it has a lot of similarities to vote for me, you ain't black. It's basically the same thing. It's just anti-Semitic instead of, you know, aiming at black folks. It's basically the same statement, and it got completely glossed over.
See, this is why, you know. Okay, we know you and I spoke before. I'm an independent voter. I'm an independent thinker. I'm an independent researcher. I'm gonna look into what I need to look in and see what's gonna help me out. However, when we are only given two choices, you got A, you got B. Those are the two choices you have.
Okay.
One, A is going to take you up the road this way. B is going to take you up the road that way. And I heard one of your callers say earlier, you got to understand that Biden is 80 years old.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We got to remember something about Biden. Biden wasn't always a Democrat. Neither was Trump always a Republican.
Wait.
Biden,
Was Biden a Republican early in his career?
early in his career, he was a Republican and switched.
Okay. I didn't know that. All right.
Okay. Now, you also have to understand that these men that we speak of were also raised by, I want to say this correctly, they were raised by white people who practiced the thing that we're trying to get away from. Now, you got white folks that say, okay, my family did that. I'm not a part of that. I don't want to be a part of that. I want to fight for the rights. I want to fight for the good stuff. Okay?
Okay.
But they still have that embedded in their soul. Okay?
Well,
It's still something it's still a part of the morality that they was raised with.
I don't want to. Let me just say this. I don't necessarily want to say that about whites that came up during that era because I'll use myself for an example. Growing up in the 70s and 80s, everyone I hung out with was a homophobe. If you play ball and you threw a bad pitch, you pitch like an FAG. People were homophobes everywhere. I'm an ally of that community. I've gotten away from the homophobic way I was raised. Everybody in the hip hop community, everybody's homophobic. So if you can be raised a certain way and mature out of it, I don't want to assume that because you were a white person raised up in the 40s and 50s, you're still operating that way in 2024. You can realize that was wrong, can't you? Okay, apparently my caller got a call in the middle of my rant. So we'll move it on, though. Whiners whine, overcomers overcome. Stephen Cloud, I don't disagree with that. Remember, your candidate said he is going to be a dictator from day one if he is elected. Do you agree, says Lionel. Here's the problem, and I think this really makes it difficult for my beloved MAGA, folks who support Trump, is that you're constantly having to suggest the things he say are taken out of context. Like often, like almost every controversial statement he makes, somebody's going to say that was taken out of context. You know, grab him by the you-know-what, it actually meant this. You know, good people on both sides actually meant that. Here's the issue I have. English is Trump's mother tongue. In fact, I'm not aware that Trump knows how to speak another language. You shouldn't have to reinterpret or reinvent the wheel for all of these statements. The issue I have is supporters of Trump, one of the biggest accolades, things that they give him credit for is he speaks like a typical New Yorker. He shoots from the hip and he says what's on his mind. He's a straight shooter. So then when he says something, why can't you take it at face value? If he's saying what's on his mind, then why do you got to reinterpret it to mean something else? That's not what a typical New Yorker would do. If a typical New Yorker is going to call you an asshole, he means you're an asshole. It doesn't mean something else. So that's where it becomes confusing to me, is that we give him credit for speaking his mind, talking like a typical New Yorker, but then when you hold him to the fire for something he said, no, actually he meant something else. It becomes challenging to really follow that. Looking in the comments, yeah, but New Yorkers hate him, says, yeah. He's not, I mean, they're suggesting he can't even get a fair trial in New York, which is odd considering all of the success you had in New York. That city don't want you back. That is bad. That is bad. Biden eats soup with a fork. Wasn't that a Campbell's chunky soup commercial? So thick you gotta eat, something like that, so thick you gotta eat with a fork or something. I believe Campbell's soup actually had that as a commercial motto for a while. Look in the comments. I heard someone set himself on fire in front of the courthouse where Trump is being trialed at. Why the hell would you do that? Why the hell would you light yourself on fire? They're going to put your ass out and continue court. Wow, really? Damn, that's got to hurt. When Trump goes away, all the other social media sites won't have anything to talk about. Well, Trump ain't going to go away no time soon. First, let's understand that. Trump is not going to go away anytime soon. Even if Trump loses, where it was stolen. There's also these court cases that have to be adjudicated. He will be filing appeals. These cases are going to go on for years. If he doesn't have victory with the Supreme Court, Trump is going to be involved in politics until the day he dies. He's going to be criticizing candidates, trying to promote others. He ain't going away. So it's a long time before, when you suggest, well, once he's gone, they won't have nothing to talk about. That could be 15 years from now, as long as he's alive. And it wouldn't surprise me if he appoints somebody else to follow in his footsteps, to have the spotlight, one of his children or something like that. So there will be things to talk about for a long time. Going back to the box, somebody says, bring Trump back. Well, a lot of folks in America are trying, but you can't do that before November. Nate Debates. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Nate debates. Let's see if they can continue to prosecute him. You want to see he's in court now. They're prosecuting him as we speak. I think they can easily do that. And I will say this, while the box is having trouble, there are future issues Trump could face. One of them being this, in my humble opinion. We know the RNC, the Republican National Convention, is paying the overwhelming majority of Trump's legal fees. Last I checked, I think $70 some odd million has been paid for Trump's legal fees by the RNC. Simple question. Why doesn't he have to report that as income? If you were arrested and had to hire a lawyer and somebody paid your lawyer for you and the IRS found out, you got to report that as income. So when you say that, let's see if they can prosecute him. I just want to point out, he could face tax troubles later on for that. Now, I understand he don't give a damn about that. Now, the goal is to keep your ass out of jail. You don't give a damn about that. But understand, if he doesn't claim all of that money they're giving him as income, it could come back to bite him. How are you getting all this free money? It's not for the campaign. It's to pay your attorneys. It's not being used as campaign funds. Even though most people are donating it as a campaign contribution. You're using this for criminal trials. That could come up. Understand, that's what the Stormy Daniels case is about. Money used for campaign funds was used to actually do something else with. You misrepresented what you're using the money for. Well, his legal fees is the same thing on a much larger scale, so it could come back up. I want to point that out. Maybe it won't, but it could. In the comments, Big Mike says, but he's a billionaire. Well, billionaires don't like to waste money. If somebody else is going to pay, let them pay. Back to the box. I don't know, Jeremy 55. Good afternoon, Jeremy.
Hello, good to be back.
Good to have you back. Have you seen any form of intolerance from either one of these candidates?
Yeah, but that's just par for the course.
What do you mean?
Come on, I know the politician is going after people on a personal level. It used to not be a huge thing back in, like, I'd say the Goldwater or the very Goldwater days, but it's slowly become more and more. And now politics is basically a spectacle. So I'm not too surprised. I'm not too offended either. As long as it's just done occasionally on debates, because in debates, let's be honest, more than likely no one's actually using reason and logic to convince anyone else. It's more like a Jerry Springer level kind of show. And so in order to convince people to vote for you, you kind of have to be the guy who can, move frames with how you speak. So you have to be good at sarcasm, funny, you have to be charismatic. Now, when it comes to political ads, those I consider a little bit different, because that's when you are not in a stage where you have to show your charisma, where you have to effectively become a dancing monkey, because that's really what debates have turned into, and that's what people want to see. A political ad, like let's say you put out something about gun control or something like that. The whole point of that is it's more like a video essay. It's
okay, but you
you
don't see any outrageous amounts of intolerance. You're just saying it's just part of running. And I see better yet, Douglas says, I love this channel. Help me decide to vote for Trump 2024. Appreciate it. Glad you're tuned in. So between these two individuals, you just see a fair amount of intolerance, nothing outrageous, nothing out of the norm.
Nothing out of the norm. It's a rather it is outrageous, but it's only outrageous in that it's outrageous that people who are going to be in our offices act like this. But it's not outrageous as for their own standards. It's kind of like watching the Jerry Springer show. It's like sure, it's trash TV, but if you're already watching, you've already bought in. So
And at this point, we as Americans, and if you look at the British, they're pretty bad too. Like some of the stuff they say in Parliament is hilarious. It's all at this point. It's part of a spectacle. That's what.
So why do you think that there seem to be so many minorities, for instance, that see Trump as intolerant? Are they wrong, or is it accurate?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say so, and that's mostly because like there's go-to insults on both sides that I don't think are particularly good for conversations. Now, in a way, it's like I said, you sometimes just got to take it for what it is and hopefully talk to, like, for instance, I would rather convince you at a bar when we're just just chatting, having fun, of why I would want to be for Trump rather than Biden. That would be more of an actual discussion we could have rather than worrying about like an online internet discourse, because for the most part, those are just toxic at places where people are just name calling anyway, and they're not trying to have a real conversation with other people. You got to kind of take it for what it is, But if you and I were just sitting down, just two people, I don't. What's your name, by the way?
You can call me Tim. Let's say we're sitting down and I'm having a conversation with you, and I ask you that. Trump called for a total and complete ban on Muslims entering the country. Do the man hate Muslims?
I don't necessarily think so, because here's the problem. Islam is an ideology. It's not a race. It's not an.
That's why I asked you, do he hate Muslims? Is he anti-Muslim?
No, because I don't think it's a permanent ban, and I think the whole idea is we don't have a good enough read on who are the more moderates and who are not, and we need some time to do that and to assess. It's kind of like think about this. When a cop enters an area and he sees that a crime has been committed, he puts everyone into a seat. He tells everyone to sit down and be quiet. Not because if some wife beater decided to like swing at his wife, that he's okay with that and that they're both guilty, but because he's trying to assess what's going on. He just wants to shut the whole thing down to get an assessment of what's going on. And I think Trump, in a lot of ways, is just like, we don't, especially after the disaster in Afghanistan, and considering Al Qaeda and the Taliban both have contacts outside of their countries. Trust me, the CIA has even admitted that Al Qaeda actually has connections in Europe and is working.
Yeah, but we know all Muslims are not part of Al Qaeda.
Right, but the thing is, we haven't done a good enough job of gathering intelligence to separate the wheat from the chaff. Okay. So it's kind of like the idea of like, let's hunker down and let's just say who's who, and can we identify them?
All right, fair enough. So when he is suggesting that immigrants coming here undocumented are vermin and they're poisoning the blood of America and they're rapists and murderers, does he hate undocumented people to the point where he's giving them these horrible labels? How would you explain that?
No, but Trump walks a very fine line. You see, so I think you and I both know there's such a thing as outrage content. The idea is to get people outraged. And
you can use racism to get people outraged, though.
Yeah, that's kind of, he borders on that. He doesn't, but his true beliefs, I don't think actually align with that. You see, what he's doing is he wants to say something where he wants to give the press just enough to quote mine him and to take him out of context, because he knows that's how he gets. How do you think he was able to get elected? He was able to, despite being the last person anyone would think of, to get as much airtime as possible. He wants to be on TV.
How do you know that he is saying things to be taken out of context and that he's not saying what he actually thinks? When he says Mexico is not sending their best and brightest, they're sending rapists and murderers, maybe he actually does think everybody coming from Mexico is a rapist and murderer. Is it wrong to take him at his word?
No, not entirely, because if you listen to to all the conversations he has about Mexico, you start to see a pattern. You realize, what he's actually saying to the people who he knows aren't going to be immediately outraged is Mexico is not doing a good job of filtering the good from the bad, and that a lot of people who are coming over have. Let me get my idea that because Mexico is not working with America. A lot of times bad people come over because they're not being separated. from the good people.
Jeremy,
And the whole point is, I could say the very, very boring. There are some good people coming over and be super or balanced, but that's not going to get you the 24/7 news cycle.
So you say something that is completely racist, Jeremy. When you say all of these interpretations from what he actually said, you do realize people are not going to go through and watch an hour worth of speeches to understand, this ain't Shakespeare where you got to go read the whole book to understand part of it. He speaks English. We hear him say Mexico is not sending their best and brightest. They're sending us their rapists and murderers. You take that at face value. The people coming in from Mexico are rapists and murderers. Nobody's going to go dig up other speeches to clear that up.
Yeah, but then he adds on the last part that tells us the whole story. Again, the whole point of this is power, and the best way to achieve power is you need. Have you ever read the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene?
No.
So it's really good. It goes through all sorts of history and sees consistent patterns of who was able to maintain power in what positions and how they were able to do it. And I believe it's Law 6 that says, gain court attention at all costs. What is unseen counts for nothing.
Yeah, the point I'm trying to make is this. When you say something like Biden saying, vote for me, you ain't black, nobody's going to sit there and play a bunch of speeches to interpret it. You're going to go with what he said. When it comes to Trump, anytime he says something controversial, you're expecting people to go digging through his albums like you're a DJ to find the right record. Nobody's going to do that. They're going to take him at face value because that's what we were told, is he speaks what's on his mind. He shoots straight from the hip. So when he says it, we're going to take it at face value.
Some of it, but there actually are people who will sometimes sit down and be like, hold on a minute.
Supporters.
Some supporters, but the thing is the thing he's trying to do is that a lot of those are people who already know of him. But what about people? But what if he didn't do that, and the few people who know of him were such a small minority of people in the country that they didn't care? It's better to be hated than to not be cared about, because at least if you're cared about, people, there might not be a huge percentage of people who will look into what you say, but there will be somebody who at least pays attention and cares.
I don't even have an answer for what you just said. It's better to be hated versus not cared. If I'm on the side of a mountain and I don't fail and hurt myself and I need to be rescued, which guy do I want? The person that doesn't care about me or the person that hates me? I don't think either one of them are any damn good to me. So whether you say you don't care about me or you hate me, as far as I'm concerned, they're both the wrong guy to show up if I need to be rescued.
Right, but again, like you got to look at like his history and like before he was running. A lot of times when we would talk about politics before he was running, he was much calmer, he was much kinder, and you could really see a gentle Donald. And then you compare it to his speeches now, they sound like the same thing he said years ago, except they sound like if you took that and you tried to make it sound as offensive as possible. It's the same beliefs, but it's like in flames. And then you can see him say, I think there are good people here and here. I just don't like the coming in and without documentation. And then you start to compare that to his speeches now, and you realize, oh no, why do you think we're even having a debate right now about a guy who was a game show host? It's because this guy had no chance of
because he's about to be president, possibly. That's why we're talking about him.
He got there. How do you think he got there? He needs you to know his name. Trump is a brand, is a name, and maybe I personally wouldn't want to have people go through hours and hours of my content and be like, oh no, he's actually a good guy.
Ain't nobody gonna do that.
Things.
All right, well, Jeremy, I do got to move it on, but I'm just going to tell you, if you say something about me, I'm going to take what you say at face value. I'm not going to go digging through your speeches to try to come up with a way of reinterpreting. Whatever comes out of your mouth. If you call me a vermin, then I think you really think nothing of me. I'm not going to try to go and find out what vermin actually. Nobody does that. No, I mean, it works if you want to defend Trump, But nobody in real life does that. They take you at face value. When Biden gets up there and stutters, nobody goes and researches what a stuttering problem is. They take him at face value that he can't speak. They don't do that for him. They're not going to do it for Trump.
Before I go, do you mind if I add in one last?
Real quick.
Sure. So we have to always remember that the political arena is extremely different from a conversation you and me could have over a beer. It's spectacle. It's not supposed. It's extremely toxic and delusional. So the kind of speeches you and I would have to convince each other of something are night and day different from the absolute shit show that is a political debate.
All right, Jerry. We can agree to disagree. Come on back through anytime. All right, looking through the comments, and I'll just say this. When you're saying comments that have historical context, such as vermin, you want to tell people to really go back and look up what you're saying and how it's out of context. Well, if you go look up a leader calling people vermin, guess what you're going to find? I don't know if looking that up and trying to put it in context helps Trump out at all, because vermin actually has a historical context coming from another world leader, Adolf Hitler. So that doesn't do him any good at all either. So I don't know if you want it. You need to take it into context. Maybe you don't like your ass. Please don't go looking up what vermin means coming from another world leader, because you don't want that to come up. Looking in the comments, that guy is actually defending shit. Thank you folks that are tapping the screen, 105,000. Does the name being called refer to any of the people? I don't know, and I'll say this, Matt, you shouldn't have to ask. I don't believe any world leader should be calling other citizens, other human beings, vermin. I just don't think it works very well. Now, if you want to specifically target somebody that has committed a violent felony, that guy is a damn animal. He's a dog, he's a beast, whatever. I can see it that way. If you're targeting somebody that committed a violent felony and calling them, an animal or vermin or something like that, don't abuse some children or took advantage of some women sexually, that guy is a damn I can see it. He's a rat, I can see that. But when you group up everybody entering the country, whether they're seeking asylum or whether they're doing it criminally, you're just broadly labeling them as vermin, that's going a bit above and beyond. I'm not saying that some of them are not criminal, because entering the country without proper documentation is a crime, but you can commit a hell of a lot of crimes that don't make you a damn vermin or rapist or a murderer. That's going way above and beyond. But I know a lot of you folks will say, well, you don't mean everybody. The context is this and that. It shouldn't be that damn difficult to interpret what a person whose mother tongue is English means. It shouldn't be that difficult, where you got regular citizens having to constantly interpret what he said to mean something else. It just shouldn't be. Looking in the comments, bruh using the Chewbacca defense. All right, going back to the box. The Chewbacca defense. Haven't heard that one before. Truth is irony. Good afternoon, truth. What am I getting wrong? Good afternoon. Let me make sure I interpret you right. You said my man. Is that a good statement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, look, man. No homo, man, but you looking good. You almost as handsome as Truth.
Oh, shit. Okay. I'll take second place. So, President Trump versus Biden in this case. Have you seen any intolerance from either one of these individuals? There you go. I see you. Any intolerance from either one of these individuals?
Well, it depends on what you mean intolerance, because I would say that both of these guys are older. They've both kind of, when you're 80 or late 70s, you're pretty set in your ways.
True.
So
true.
If you say intolerance to meaning, are you inclusive and diverse, and do you treat people equitably? I think Biden is actually the personification of that. He's got a black woman as his vice president. He's got a black woman as his press secretary. He's got a
but they're going to point out. They're going to point out that. Yeah, but they're going to point out that Trump affiliated with lots of the black community. Some folks say he used to date a black woman. I don't know who that is, but they say he used to date a black woman. Rap stars are hanging around Trump. They're going to use that for Trump too.
So okay, so which one of them did he put in a position of power? And don't tell me Ben Carson, because Ben Carson ain't been black since the 70s.
I can't do nothing with that. But let's go with Mike Tyson. Some folks say that when Mike Tyson got out of prison, he gave him an opportunity to fight in an arena when he was having trouble. So he helped Mike Tyson restore his career. Don King made money off of him.
I also heard that he helped Jennifer Hudson. So these people are entertainers. So if you want to help a fellow entertainer, a fellow person who's in the limelight, you know, I'm not going to question your motives, but at the same time, he had the opportunity to make something right, and he chose to double down on it. What I'm talking about is the Central Park Five, where these kids were arrested and convicted, and later found out.
Okay, I don't know what happened for no reason at all other than somebody was hating on the program, but my last guest got taken off, and I don't think he was saying anything of any racial significance. Listen, folks, I don't block, ban, or censor anyone, but I can't control what the TikTok gods do, and sometimes it happens. Generally, something like that. And by the way, for my last caller, appeal that. You should win that appeal very quickly. But there are folks sometimes who, what I call just simply haters, will report folks. And it can happen from that way. And usually you end up winning the appeal right off the bat. But yeah, my last caller didn't say anything like that. And I always say, usually when it's somebody reporting folks, it's somebody who is on the liberal side of the aisle. Obviously, that didn't happen from a liberal. That what my last caller getting banned, that would have been somebody on the right doing it. So it does happen on both sides. But folks, it does happen. Snowbird says, we're tired of the race card all the time. Jeez, really? What do you think is happening when folks are constantly bashing the crimes of immigrants? You're tired of the race card that reflects poorly on whites, but if you show Black Lives Matter burning up a whole damn town, what do you mean you're tired of the race card? America's founded on the damn race card. We've always had the race card. It's always there. We're just waiting for a time to play it. It's like the big joker in the game of spades. What do you mean? Look at it in the comments, though. Mighty White, says Darkstick. That's a statement coming from a place of privilege. Yikes. That was Sunshine So Bright. Love that name. Uncle Sambo. I always get that one as well, along with Uncle Ruckus, Uncle Tom, Sellout, whatever. Many folks tune in, they look at the visual, and they start typing. Don't listen to the program. Don't listen to any opinions or ideas. They just simply view with their eyes and make a comment. So it is what it is. Racism benefits the political establishments. I agree with that. I have never seen anyone any different. I was taught to love everybody, says Selena Don Hopkins. Every American would tell you the same thing. Yet racism has prevailed in America for quite a while. The problem with racism, and I'm not suggesting anyone viewing the program as racist at all. But the issue with racism is it's kind of like Fight Club. You don't talk about Fight Club. Most folks who are intolerant, who are racist, whether and there are black and white racists, there are Hispanics that are racist. It's not limited to one group. But I will tell you this, in our country, most racists don't admit to being racist. We know racism prevailed in America for hundreds of years before the Civil Rights Act. Go back and look at speeches from politicians and see how many of them came out and openly admitted, I hate those people. None of them did. There's always another alternative reason for why you're doing what you're doing that gives you plausible deniability. Racism is something that racists generally don't admit. I'm for segregation. It ain't because I hate anybody. I just think they should be over there and I should be over here. Segregation is racist as hell. But there's a way to explain it away. That's how the country's always been. The racists tell you otherwise. It's not because I hate you, it's because it is, or because of that, or because I think this. But in reality, it's just because that person is a different color than you. That's all it is. That person was the same color as you. Everything you just said would not apply. It's racism. But there's always a different way to look at it. Racism is just a blanket term these days to discredit an opinion. Temporal paradox. I do agree wholeheartedly that racism is thrown around as a term to demonize. I've said it before that if you are a Republican, conservative, MAGA, and you debate with the left, eventually somebody's going to call you a racist. Because the left does often throw around the term racism to demonize. But there is a flip side. If you are a Democrat, liberal, or progressive, and you debate with somebody on the right, eventually somebody's going to call you a socialist. Because they do the same thing. They use the term socialism to demonize. And both terms have a significant amount of folks in this country that hate it. That's why if you can label somebody a racist or you can label someone a socialist, it really hurts them, particularly if they're running for office. Both sides do it. It's not just coming from one side or the other. Looking in the comments, if someone says someone else is racist, I just assume they're probably pretty cool and reasonable. That's what your name, standing white pooping. If someone says somebody else is racist, you just assume they're probably pretty cool and reasonable. That's a bad statement to make. It almost makes it sound like you prefer to be around folks who are accused of racism. Like you kind of favor it. I don't know about that one. Because everybody who's being referred to as a racist they're not lying 100% of the time. Some of these people are actually racist. So he assumes it's a lie. That's the point I'm saying. It's not always a lie. Some of these people that you refer to as racist, they actually are racist. So going back to the box. Stick the ruler. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Maybe I'm getting this whole thing wrong. Maybe it is indeed Biden that hates every damn body and Trump is the guy we need to have. Stick, what say you?
No, we don't need Trump. But that's just me being me, and that's just my opinion. I want everybody to go out and vote for who you want to vote for. But just know that if you don't get what you want, it doesn't mean that your life won't continue. I'll just say that.
What about democracy? Is democracy or the economy going to be permanently damaged?
Well, to be honest, when I say if you don't get what you want for, I'm actually talking about MAGA. I'm not talking about independents and Democrats and people with a good head on their shoulders. Okay. I'm actually talking about MAGA. So let me clear that up.
Okay. So what if we get... how would that work for MAGA? How would it be if we get another 4 years of Biden?
Well, if we get another 4 years of Biden, Biden isn't on trial. Biden isn't trying to figure out who's going to testify against him when we already know majority of the Republicans and or his staff, talking about Donald Trump, is the one that's testifying against him. There's no Democrats against Joe Biden in the sense of a witness in courtroom. So
yeah, but some would say that Biden is not on trial because he's weaponized the system and they're ignoring his crimes. Some folks believe Biden is a criminal.
Well, I would say this: if Biden was a criminal before he became president, it was Donald Trump's DOJ, and Donald Trump's DOJ was the main people investigating him. And we found a lot of stuff on Donald Trump. Now, not to deflect from Joe Biden, but all I'm saying is his DOJ isn't doing what happened with Donald Trump's DOJ, which is found the culprit. There is no culprit when it comes to when it comes to Joe Biden. Joe Biden is doing what he's supposed to do. He's turned the country around from COVID. He's turned the country around in the sense of the economy. He's turned the country around in the sense of unemployment. He's on the up and up. I mean, Donald Trump is out there wishing that the economy goes bad. Donald Trump doesn't want them to work on the border. So right now, who's working against MAGA's best interest? Is it Donald Trump or is it Joe Biden?
Well said. So, and this is kind of, it's on topic, but then again, it's a bit wild. I'll give it to you in the comments. MDJ says, Biden is actually not the problem they have. Talking about the liberals. Biden is not the problem the Democrats have. What the problem is actually is the VP. Kamala is the problem. Where do you think that's coming from? Do you think Kamala presents a problem?
Well, Kamala is like any other vice president. She got the job and she's just playing second place. She got the job, and whatever that entails in the sense of being vice president, that's what she does. She's in a sense where she needs to open her mouth, she does. I believe Joe Biden needs to open his mouth more because he's been more of a what do you call it, mild-mannered. I mean, he's been playing Superman the whole time to change around a lot of stuff that Donald Trump had going wrong for this country, and now we're back on track. And that's what I see.
So you see Biden is doing a good job. You see Biden is actually doing a good job.
I actually see Biden doing a good job in at least 80% of what he has in front of him.
80%? Wow. There's a lot of Americans that think Biden sucks. Why do you think that is?
Well, 10% of his perception and 10% of it I would give it would be the border. And the only reason I'm saying the border is because he doesn't want to do an executive order. He doesn't want that. He wants something that's going to last, is going to be tall and standing. He doesn't want a limp. So, I don't have to go any further.
But doesn't that make Biden look? Listen, you can't get Congress to do what you need to do because Trump is in the background. But you do believe the country's border is porous and it needs to be addressed. Then you do a temporary executive order to at least show you did something. You don't think Biden is failing at that?
No, I really don't see Biden as being failing. What I do see is, folks, hold on just 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. What I do see is folks wanting a change so fast that it makes their head spin, but it's not going to happen. If Biden would have had, let's just say Obama's economy, what would you say about Biden's first 2-3 years?
If he had had
on top of that,
if he had had Obama's economy, you would have been getting a lot of credit for it.
Exactly. So that's my point. He would if he would have been the president. Let's just say he didn't say I want to retire, and he came out and he said, "Okay, you know what? I changed my mind," and he won. It would continue. Then on top of that, the plan that Obama had put forth would continue in the sense of if we had a pandemic. So it's just like a lot of things coulda, shoulda happened, and if it was a split, we'd all be high. But sometimes you have to look at things in hindsight. In hindsight, had we had Hillary, another Democrat, would have took another Democrat's plan, put it in motion, and we wouldn't have went through the things, and we wouldn't have lost the people that we lost.
Yeah, but that almost sounds like taking out of context and trying to reinterpret Trump's words. It didn't happen. I get your point, if this or if that, but right now we have Biden.
I'm just saying. So being that it did happen, being that he did, fellas, this is what we're at. He got fired. Number one. We vote. No matter whether you want to say we cheated, no matter whether you want to say we won, either or, I'm gonna do a Donald Trump, because Donald Trump said that if he lost, it's a rigged election. But then when he won, he ain't say nothing in 2016.
I can't argue with that.
At the end of the day, if he can do it, we can do it. So that's where I'm at now. I'm tired of making excuses. I'm tired of giving credit where credit isn't due. Because again, nobody can actually give me actual policy or fact when Donald Trump came into office. What did he do to make the economy so good, other than be white? And I really feel like this: he got into office. He was a white businessman. He gave the tax credit cuts, and everybody that was basically the CEOs, they all jumped behind him, and that's why the country looked like it was going to be so great. But Lord and behold, what happened? The less taxes you bring in, and the more you still paying out, you increase the deficit and or the debt, and that's what happened. So you take away 10 million barrels a day, and then the pandemic hits. That's what's supposed to happen. The gas is supposed to go down. But being that you took all of those 10 million barrels away, you just balanced it out. You made it to where it stayed the same price.
I feel you. A lot of people don't see it that way. But I do got to move it on, though, Stick. Appreciate you coming in as always.
All right. Appreciate you.
Anytime. Looking in the comments real quick, 70% of the GDP rather, is produced in democratic cities. Facts are funny things. That is true because that's where all the people are. That's where all the damn people are. Out of the top 50 largest cities in America, I think 9 of them are Republican. 9 of them. And I think, I did a show on this, I think you got to go to the 15th largest city in America before you get to a Republican mayor. I think so you're correct. All of the money is produced in democratic cities because that's where all the people are. Most Republican cities are much smaller. I think Oklahoma City, if I'm correct, is like the biggest city that has a Republican administration. But, the Houstons, the Chicagos, the Atlantas, all that shit is Democrat. It really is. So, and people say, well, Democratic cities. One of the things they don't talk about is, there's a lot of money in Democratic cities. It really is. If you took Democratic cities out of the federal coffers, you'd notice a major difference in the wealth of this country because that is where all the industry, good paying jobs and corporate, that's where all the stuff is at. That is true. Red or blue, just keep the people confused. I think it's a little bit more than that. There are red and blue policies that people favor. There is differences, big differences for why people do that. Trump was practically channeling Nixon as he stood by a cloud of tear gas, holding a Bible in front of a church for a photo op, crushing the grandchildren of the people crushed in Selma. Damn, JFJ. Oh God, I won't even follow that up. Wow, that's harsh. Looking at it on YouTube, by the way, my YouTubers ain't tapping that like button. Makes me look at your side of the aisle a bit more. You folks, show your boy some love. Tap the screen, smash that like button. Looking at the comments, CISO Felony says, and Biden shut down all oil production in the United States and sold our oil reserve to China. We don't even get our own energy in America. We get it from Venezuela under Trump. We were energy independent. I don't believe that's true, Felony. He shut down all oil production in America. I'd have to look. I don't believe that's accurate. Looking at somebody says, oh my God, so false. Yeah, I don't believe that's accurate. I believe that is a talking point from Biden's detractors to statewide fuel prices went up. They don't mention OPEC and any of that. They blame it all on Biden. And I believe what you stated is the talking point that is used. It's cheaper to get it elsewhere. I've heard that. I've also heard that we don't use all of our own fuel because we keep it for war reserves. So that if something breaks out, because remember in World War II, when the Japanese started becoming our adversary, one of the first things we did was stop sending them oil, which many suggest motivated them to break out, in terms of getting into war with us, because we no longer were helping supply their war effort. So we would not want a war to break out, and wherever we're getting fuel from be sanctioned, so we're no longer getting enough fuel to supply our own war machine and have an issue. So we got the money, so we just buy the shit elsewhere and keep our own as reserve. That's what I was also taught. We saw the vast majority of the oil we pump. I don't get that. A war is going to break out no matter what, always has been. No, I don't agree with that, North Dell. I don't believe a war is going to break out always no matter what. I believe that America makes money off wars. So we, to some degree, are the spark that generates it. Notice how we're involved in every damn thing, all over the damn globe. Anytime there's a major, we always are involved in it. There's a reason for that. We don't need to be involved in every conflict. There's a reason we get involved in all of that shit. Because we make money off of it. Because we're part of the war machine. We make a lot of money selling arms. You ever seen the movie Nicolas Cage? Lord of War, where he was making money selling weapons? That's what we do. There's not a war we don't like because somebody's going to need to buy some shit. Right now, the moment Israel attacked Iran, war stocks shot up in value. If you got investments in war-related businesses, you like what's going on because it's a good chance we're headed to some type of major conflict. You like it. CEO. I wanted to bring up Furback. Okay, I hit the wrong one there, but we'll see what happens. Thank you for smoking. I haven't seen that. Watch that. Thank you for smoking the movie. I haven't seen that. I know what it's about, though. I do know what it's about. We'll give the box a second here, and we'll go ahead and reset it if it doesn't come up. Wait, let me go check my Chinese stocks. Well, listen, there's speculation and fear has a lot to do with a lot of stocks in this country. For instance, when a liberal gets elected, folks believe the liberals are going to destroy the damn economy. So the price of gold shoots up. So if you own gold, if you own it before the election, it's going to be worth more if a liberal wins because folks believe liberals are going to destroy the economy. Same thing with firearms and ammunition. It goes up in value because people believe the liberals are going to take away guns, so people start hoarding them so that they'll be armed if the liberals come around and take all the damn guns. I think under President Obama, the price of an AR like tripled in value. It happens. When the right gets elected, for instance, folks believe they are tougher on crime than the left. Prison stocks become more valuable because the acts on the right are going to lock every damn body up. Therefore, building more prisons. So people believe when folks on the right get elected, if you got money invested in private prisons, you're going to do better because they are for tougher sentences, keeping people in prison longer and filling them up. Prison for profit states in the comments. That is true. So there are investments that change simply due to speculation, not often due to any reality, like the AR-15 tripling in price. That wasn't due to any reality. That was just speculation. So sometimes stocks and investments change simply due to how people think, not necessarily based on any reality at all. Obama didn't take the damn economy. So when the price of gold shot up, folks who bought it just had to pay more because some idiots thought something that wasn't true. Happens all the time. Going back to the box, let's try it with Furback. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Republicans didn't destroy over 10 black cities. The left did. What 10 black cities were destroyed by the left, Rep 8319? What 10 black cities did the liberals destroy? I'd be curious to hear what you have to say. Furback, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tim. How you doing, my man?
I'm hearing the left is destroying cities. What say you?
Well, I live in a city, and there's a lot of left people, and nothing's on fire. so they're going to have to elaborate a little more.
Yeah, I'd like to know what cities that the 10 black cities that the left destroyed. I don't know what the hell that's coming from, but I'd be curious. So, do you see any intolerance coming from Trump or Biden?
I'll say like this, Tim. You often hear people say they work for us, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
They do.
So, Tim, yeah, I don't disagree with that. But that being said, with any job you get, they ask for references, right?
True. Oh, I know where you're going with this one, but go ahead.
Yeah, so
I already know where you're going.
I walk right into that, right? So when do we stop believing the references? You know what I mean? Like, we got a lot of references that had working relationships with 45 that I don't want to hire him.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, unless we get some references that, you know, oppose Joe, I mean, to me, this is a slam dunk. I don't understand why you don't ever believe the people that actually has had contact with these individuals. You know, I definitely have my, you know, leanings or biases about whoever, but until I've been around this person, worked with them, you know, it's just an opinion.
You make a real good point. And by the way, folks, tap the screen. Get me on up to 135,000. Still 600 plus of you in here. You make a really good point in terms of references. Trump has been president, and he probably would have a hard time getting a decent reference from any of his close associates in his administration. They all believe he should not be reelected for the most part. That makes a good point. Why the folks in your inner circle do not view you favorably. That is a good point to be made.
And even a bigger point is that, you know, they try to use that, you know, that Joe was a career politician. Okay, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever arbitrary number you want to use.
Right.
And he hasn't slipped on a banana. There's not a Stormy Daniels that's coming out when he was 30 or 40. I'm not saying the man's perfect. I'm just going by what we're hearing. All we hear is that he's old and he's a career politician, and he's a doddering old man. Okay, I'll give you that.
Well, there are some issues. First of all, he had not controversial, but he had confidential documents in his home that was illegal to have. Talking about Biden. I mean, there are some issues with the Ukraine and his son. I mean, there's a few things to bring up about Biden.
Okay, so he's sleepy. He forgets things.
We're talking about crimes.
Man, yeah. Can a sleepy, forgetful man do a crime? You know, even in the mob stories, you know, once Don Corleone gets so old, you put somebody else in the chair. So I mean, what are we talking about here? Like I said, I'm not really. Me and you usually have boring conversations to the audience because I'm not really bombastic. To me, it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Like I said, let's listen to the references. You know, I see you on Mike's show the other night. Great job, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't know if you caught the show the next night, but it was a little different.
It was a little. You talking about Michael Cohen? Michael Cohen, Trump's lawyer. No, I didn't see him the next day. What did I miss? I wasn't mentioned, was I?
You wasn't mentioned, but you was. You know, when I heard him say that, you know, I'm not going to be answering as many questions as I have in the past. I totally thought about you, Tim. I'm like, that's pretty ironic. You know what I mean? But,
you know, for folks who don't know, I got a chance to speak to Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, who's going to testify in that New York case. And I talked to him for about a half hour, and I asked him some, let's just say, some fairly tough questions. I wasn't asking him questions from a standpoint of being a fan. So the next night you watched him and you're saying that he's suggested I'm not going to be answering questions like that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't necessarily say you, but when he said questions, I'm like, yeah, I've watched it a few times, and you hit him with the stuff that I think most people used to need to, you know, hit him with. But as most of my conversations do, is 360. That's another reference of Trump's.
Yeah.
Didn't even told you out his mouth that, hey, the guy is racist.
Wow. Yeah, and that's what I asked him. I was like, if you're saying all this bad stuff about Trump, what does it say about you that you hung around him for as long as he gave you a paycheck? I don't think he liked that, but I threw it out there like, you're writing books on Trump, you're saying all kinds of negative stuff about him. You didn't have a problem when he was paying you for 20 years. The minute he threw you under the bus, now you want to do a tell-all? He looked at me like, what?
and he kind of said he didn't need the money, but he needed the money.
Right.
But he also, in my opinion, copped to say that you're right.
Yeah.
He didn't say you were wrong. He kind of underhandedly said you're right.
Yeah, and I kind of
better than him.
Yeah, and I kind of clipped him because when he said he didn't need the money, I'm like, you just stated you paid Stormy Daniels off with a home revolving line of credit on your home, a home equity line. If you didn't need the money, why are you taking out loans on your house? And then he started saying, well, I tried to do it to hide it from my wife, so I took out a loan. So then I said, well, you helping him cheat on his wife with a loan that you're hiding from your wife. How does that help your credibility? And that's when the other guy started apologizing for the questions I was asking him.
Right.
But I'm like, you dig yourself in a wormhole. He wasn't a fan of what I was asking him. But I do appreciate him letting me talk to him for a half hour.
Yeah, I thought it was great, man. And I mean, under whatever he was under, you was hitting him hard. I think he handled it pretty well, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, you know, but like I said, most things are 360 when I talk because I believe that's how the world is. And you know, lions hang with lions, tigers are not hanging with lions. So you know, if Trump's a dirty, underhanded guy, and so is Mike and the rest of the crew.
Yep.
Sounds like that's the damn swamp, and maybe Trump was the biggest pig in it.
Wow. Well, I got to say, for a man who promised to drain the swamp, he sure is pointing out a lot of swamp creatures that he personally brought to Washington. So he's personally admitting he's responsible for a hell of a lot of swamp creatures to go through Washington. But Furback, you know I got to move it on. Thank you, Lady AJ, for that to Furback. Appreciate you coming on, man.
No problem. One more thing, brother.
Go ahead.
One more thing. All right, so, you know, I heard it. I haven't got it confirmed. I was at work and kind of hearing it over the wire. Apparently, a guy set himself ablaze today.
I heard that, too.
So, you know, we taught not to assume. But, you know, like I said, most things are 360. So let's I'll assume that guy was probably a Trump supporter.
Why? Why would you assume that?
Well, just like with J6, who the hell on the left would get mad about Biden win the election? Why would we have anybody go in there and tear up anything when our quote-unquote guy won? So, quote-unquote, their guy got all his juries intact, and now, hey, it's full-fledged ahead. Why would a liberal go out there and burn themselves up about that?
I hear your point, but I don't know why somebody on the right would do it either. He's not even expected to do any jail time behind that. That's out of all the cases Trump is facing, that one, he may actually beat that one. That ain't that serious. Set yourself on fire.
Building it and catch a bullet over somebody's opinion about an election.
Yeah. So it's we live in volatile times, man. Appreciate you coming through, though.
Peace out.
Absolutely. Looking in the comments, wow, I gotta look that up. What don't people understand? Other countries don't care if you Republican or Democrat. That don't matter. Northdale, that is true. That is absolutely true. When America does something, the rest of the globe see it as America doing something. They don't distinguish between Republican and Democrat. Just like we don't distinguish between the parties of another country. If we get invaded by another, well, we're not going to get invaded, but if we have issues with another country, we got issues with that country. We don't distinguish between the political party from that country. So I do agree with that. So for those on the left in chat, why aren't we talking policies? So far, I just see name calling and lock him up with little to back it. For those participating, I don't mean you. This is on the YouTube side. Why aren't we talking policies? Well, policies do get discussed, but folks on the right aren't going to agree with them. Such as the folks on the left are going to be now trying to codify a woman's right to choose. That's the new goal for the next half century or whatever it takes until it's done. There are policies being discussed. Whether we're talking about the effort for student loan forgiveness, that was a policy that got shot down. They actually came up with a bipartisan border bill that got shot down. The George Floyd bill, a lot of minorities favored that. That got shot. There's plenty of policies, plenty of them. Just like if you talked about on the right, folks say, well, Trump had no policies. There was the wall. That got shot down. Trump had policies as well. Remain in Mexico, or better yet, the Muslim ban. That got shot down by the Supreme Court. Both of these men have policies. They don't always get to successfully implement them. Some of you may or may not like them, but they both do have policies. They both do. Are you saying it's all right to live under a dictatorship? Says Kat. No, I don't want to live under a dictatorship. As, what is his name? Kanye West once said, no one man should have all that power. No, I don't want to live under a dictatorship, because if the person is bad, they can be really bad because nothing you can do to stop them. Their word is law. No matter what it is, no matter what it is, guy could drive down the street in a limo, point to your daughter, say bring her in. You don't have the ability to say no to that. In fact, I'm under the I think I've heard that Saddam Hussein used to do that. Just yank a girl off the street. That's what a dictator can do. It can go anywhere. So when somebody tells you they're going to be a dictator for one day, you can do a lot of damage on one day. You can do a lot of damage in one day. Just understand that. A whole lot of... You could get rid of the entire Senate, the entire Congress, and put in favorable people in one day. Okay, I'm not a dictator tomorrow, but look who's all in Congress and Senate now. One day you can do a lot of damage. Now, that's why Sean Hannity, when Trump said that, tried to help say that it was not being interpreted right. It's taken out of context. You know the term that's often used. But he wouldn't back off of that shit. But you can do a lot of damage in one day. You don't need a lot of time to do some serious damage. Let's go, Brandon, says nice guy 1515, a.k.a. fuck Joe Biden. USA needs a dictator because what we have now isn't working. You think a dictator would work? Okay, well, why don't we just promote Biden to dictator? Would that be better? It's not what we have now. Just promote the guy to dictator. Or better yet, how about Kamala Harris, the dictator? You said what we have now ain't working. There you go. Give you your wish. Congress are basically dictators. No, not even close. Not even. Congress has nowhere near enough power to be a dictator. I mean, you got the Speaker of the House right now that don't even know if he can keep his damn job because Marjorie Taylor Greene is working with Trump, who is not even a politician, getting permission to kick him out of office, just like McCarthy. Those are Congress. You think that's dictator-like? Where a guy who's just a regular citizen, talking about Trump, had the Speaker of the House, talking about McCarthy, kicked out. Congress ain't dictators. They don't have nowhere near that kind of power. Doesn't know the definition of dictator. Yeah, something like that. Magats, not MAGA, but he added a T and an S onto it. Magats aren't cult members, but one just shot up outside the courthouse and set himself on. So he actually fired some shots. I'm gonna have to get off here and go check that out. Really? 75 executive orders is pretty dictatorish. No. If you had a dictator in office, you wouldn't be counting executive orders because all of them, everything he does would be an executive order. It would go way beyond what you're talking about. No, not even close. I didn't read any shots being fired. I haven't heard that either. If you really want a dictator, get ready to lose your rights, says Lamar Williams. Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. That's certainly what would happen if you get a dictator. It just depends on what the dictator believes you as a citizen should have as a right. You would lose some rights, no doubt. If you got I don't care if the dictator is liberal or if the dictator is Republican, you are going to lose some rights with a dictator. That's guaranteed. Whether their mindset leans left or leans right, you're going to lose some rights. Going back to the box, the one and only Moo, the Tuxedo Cat, certainly a friend of the program. Moo, I already know what your answer is, but I got to frame the question anyhow. Yeah. Have you seen any level of intolerance from Trump or Biden?
Oh, yeah, man. Like Trump, he got rid of abortion rights, right? And he said he wants punishments for women. He said that on TV. So he's not tolerant of abortion at all. You know, he endorsed Ron DeSantis, who actively goes after the LGBTQ community and bans books in Florida. I mean, he's endorsed Youngkin in Ohio, who's like a religious zealot, right? Who's also heavily against women's reproductive rights. Yeah, the dude, I mean, he called for the unaliving of the Park Five. So, yeah, I mean, the guy is clearly out of his gourd, right?
You're talking about Trump. So
yeah, Trump. Yeah.
So what type? So you see Trump as bigoted? I mean, I'm assuming you're saying racist because you're bringing in the Central Park Five. Why do you think there's so many people that see him otherwise? That don't see? They see Biden as a racist and see Trump.
America has a lot of racists in it, my dude.
Wait.
This country was built on racism, right?
You said what has a lot of racism?
You paid. You know, you had African kings over there who sold their people to the white men over here, and then the white men over here put them to work, and they brought Asians over here also who helped build the railroad, and you pretty much had free labor to build this country. So there's a shit ton of racists here. You had a civil war, and you didn't take care of them after that. You left them be, right? You let them go on their merry way, and then they told you they'd be back, and here they are. Congrats.
Now, some folks are going to point out that it was the Democratic Party that was the party of slavery.
At one point, sure, yeah. I mean, you know, but that hardly matters at this point, right? You can argue that all day, but it doesn't much matter right now. I mean, what good is it going to do you when the KKK members are endorsing the Republican Party? Trump is having dinner with people like Nick Fuentes. He says when the protests in Charlottesville happen, that there's very fine people on both sides with guys screaming, Jewish people will not replace us, right? So, you know, there you go. It doesn't matter what happened before. You can scream, oh, the Democrats started the KKK all day. It doesn't matter at this point. Your point doesn't even matter.
Yeah, there's clearly been some change. I mean, we know the southern states is where a lot of this stuff started. The southern states is where it still is, and they've switched parties down there. So I don't disagree with that. But a lot of folks suggest that it's Biden. So are they getting it wrong with Biden?
What do you mean, that Biden's racist?
Yeah.
I'm sure to an extent he is. I mean, he's a rich white man. I'm sure he holds some biases for the African-American community and other minorities just from being a white rich man. Generally, they're not too kind to poor minorities in general. But would you say that he's as bad as Trump? No, he's not even in the same league, right? Like, there's no comparison.
Let's talk about that. Now, you're saying that he's not in the same league as Trump, but before we talk about that, I want to ask you, Whiskey Trash in the comments said, if you quit talking about racism, it will disappear. What say you?
So yeah, sure. It'll disappear as far as on TV and in the news, right? But then you'll still have minorities getting heavily abused by the systemically racist police system. So just because you don't talk about it doesn't mean it magically goes away, right? You just stand there and watch it, and then you don't say anything, which makes you a terrible person. Really, that's what that is. Yeah,
and I gotta say, in fact is, if you're out doing evil, whether it's abusing children, being racist, robbing banks, anything, the number one thing someone who is doing wrong wants is for nobody to talk about it. So no, it's not gonna.
I mean, the reason you don't want to talk about it is because you're personally embarrassed, right? Probably because you're a racist. Generally, when people bring up racism and you feel a personal embarrassment, that's a very good indicator that you may be a racist. Wow. So you may want to take that into consideration.
Wow. Now, you said on this program that you believe that let me make sure I get this correct. You believe that most MAGA are racist.
No, generally they are, yeah, because at this point, right, you are adhering to the MAGA movement, right? So you are instilled in your values at this point. You back Trump regardless of what he does or says, right? He obviously grapes women at this point, right? You have Stormy Daniels saying things like that. And then, of course, you know, the unaliving of the Park Five, the discrimination lawsuits from New York when it comes to his condominiums back in the day. I mean, yeah, the guy did a good thing for the black colleges. I will give him that, you know what I mean? But overall, the things he's done are ultimately terrible, right? And it hardly makes up for his past and what he's done in the present. You know, so it is what it is. Right?
Well, folks are going to point to the economy. I guess $2 gas.
I mean, you know, look at this point, right? So Trump has such a terrible relationship with the black community that he paid an RNC intern to hug him at a Chick-fil-A, right? Like that's
wait, you know, I heard somebody talking about that. I meant to look into it. You're telling me that whole Chick-fil-A in Atlanta thing where he went in there and ordered 30 milkshakes, that was staged?
So the lady that hugged him works for the RNC as an intern, and she went on Fox News later and she said, you know, I didn't get to say my message while I was there with Trump, but here I go. Here's my message for the RNC and the Republican Party. But yeah, she was a hired. I told you, everything that the Republicans accuse Democrats of is an admission, my dude. They say the Democrats use paid actors. Well, there you go. You know, these guys prove my points all the time.
Wow. I got to look that up because I don't want to believe that man would actually stage an event like that to make himself look good with the black community. I thought it was spur of the moment.
So his his campaign uses AI pictures to generate photos of him in the hood with black people, right? Because there are no real pictures of shit like that, right? And when he does do some shit like that on TV, he makes sure that the place is filled with his supporters. They hire an intern from the RNC to come on down and give his fat orange ass a hug, dude. That's how it works, right? I mean, well played, you know? But let me say this. Bill Clinton didn't have to hire anybody to do that for him. They just actually wanted to come up and hug him and have fucking McDonald's with him.
Yeah, that's true. Wow. I have, you know, I guess I've been watching Fox a lot lately. It didn't come up on Fox that it was staged. I guess it probably was coming up on liberal outlets. I got to look that up. That's crazy. I
mean, this is the kind of shit. So then they give you this narrative, right? That, oh, all the black people are voting for Trump now. All the Hispanics are voting. It's all bullshit, man. Again, you're not acquiring a bunch of new voters, my folks, okay? You screwed over like every woman in the country when you got rid of Roe v. Wade. And then you have Trump saying, give it back to the states so I can skirt my whole responsibility in the affair. And then I'll blame all the governors for doing the bad shit. And I won't have to take responsibility for it, right? I mean, you guys are federally fucked, man.
So you think Trump is not going to win come November?
I mean, I would be utterly shocked if there is not like the biggest woman vote out this election than ever before. Oh. Because when it comes to this kind of thing, women have always been heavily active since like the fucking 70s when all this shit went down. And I've seen it through the 80s and the 90s when Republicans have been trying to get rid of this thing since I was a fucking child, right? And the reason nobody talks policy with you guys is because when you do policy, you're usually taking rights away from people or you're making tax cuts for the rich. There's nothing else to fucking talk about with you because I'm 42 years old. I was born in 1981 and the whole time I've been alive, all you've done is try to raise the Social Security age and privatize it, try to get rid of abortion and give tax cuts to the fucking rich. That's what you've done for 42 years since I've been alive, the Republican Party.
So no chance at all you're voting Republican. Can I chalk you down as a potential?
Fuck no. Fuck no.
All right, Moo, my dude. As always, good conversation. You know the door's open to you anytime.
Man. Have a good weekend, okay?
Damn, yeah. Shit. God damn. All right, let me go back to the box. Moo don't fuck around. All right, oh my God, really left my ass off. Great comedy skit, says fucking snow. All right, healthcare never, absolutely. Social Security needs to have something done. But do we need to have done what Moo was suggesting that the Republicans want to do? Let's go to the other side. You know, I always enjoy hearing from my beloved MAGA. We'll see if we can bring up Electric Wolf number 45 in honor of the 45th president, friend of the program. The box doesn't seem to want to bring up Wolf. Stop playing with him. He is intelligent. Yikes. I like Moo. I had nothing but love for Moo. Uncle Moo letting it hang yet again. Love Wolf. All right, well, I can't get Wolf. The box is acting up. Wolf, drop. Try again. I'll try to bring you up. Yes, Social Security needs something done. Raise the amount the rich can be taxed on their earnings. I will say this. I do believe if you are wealthy and you're voting strictly based on maintaining and keeping your wealth, you probably should vote for the right. I do believe it makes more sense. If you got money and you want to keep your money, you should vote for the right. They are more in favor of what you would be. I mean, lower taxation, certainly not being forced to help take care of the downtrodden. You're going to have a lot less social programs being endorsed or supported by the right. If you're rich and you don't want to be forced to share, yeah, in my opinion, you should vote right. I really do believe that. I've said before that the way the right and the left think in terms of wealthy and poor is exactly 180 degrees of each other. The left are skeptical of the rich. They're suspicious of the rich. The left tends to think that rich people made their money on the backs of others. You know, they don't see them as all just working hard to come from nothing to something. They see them as you don't game the system somehow to get money. and you're skirting on your taxes. The left is not big fans of the wealthy. They want them to be taxed more, things like that. And they're very suspicious of how they earned all that money. The right is just the opposite. They are very friendly to the wealthy. If a person got money, then they're likely to create jobs. I never got my job from a poor person. You know, they worked hard to get their money. They shouldn't have limits placed on them. The right is actually skeptical of the poor. If you start helping them out, they're going to be lazy and use that as a reason not to go out and work. I mean, they're more skeptical of the downtrodden. So yeah, in my opinion, if you're if you have a significant amount of wealth and that's your biggest focus in regards to keeping it, you probably should vote Republican, because Republicans are very skeptical of anybody asking for help. They just need a handout. You know, they're just asking for a handout. Most of the people who are downtrodden, seeking some type of help, the right is suspicious of you. They believe that you probably could do better and you're choosing not to, because a handout exists. The Democrats, on the other hand, are far more favorable to the downtrodden. That's not to say that the downtrodden are not scamming the system. There are plenty of welfare queens and folks out there that do scam the system, which, if you got a Democratic politician in charge, makes it easier to scam the system as a poor person. If you got a Republican politician in charge, makes it easier to scam the system as a wealthy person, because they pass laws favoring those particular groups of people. So looking in the comments, they steal other people's money to donate. Ouch. You have the wrong attitude, Tim, says Leslie 822. You know, my divorce court judge said the same damn thing. What's wrong with my attitude, Leslie? What's wrong with my attitude? Yikes. The left don't care about the poor, says Rep. Then why are you always accusing them of giving free handouts? Whether it's universal health care, extending unemployment insurance, forgiving college tuition, it's all coming from the left. And all of those programs help out the poor. The idea that the left don't care about the poor doesn't make sense. That just doesn't make sense. All of their programs primarily target the poor. Tax the rich is a well-known left-wing statement. What do you think they're going to do with the tax money? They're going to help out the poor. So, yeah, I don't know where you're getting that from. Want for more than welfare. I don't quite get that. They should have thought about the price of college before going. That's the point I'm trying to make, is that the right is more suspicious and, to some degree, unfavorable to folks on the lower end of the scale. Should have thought about the price of college before going, as he said. But when the banks started failing, the right was right there willing to bail them out. They didn't tell you should have thought about that before opening up a bank. No, they were totally in favor of helping them out. That's the difference. That is the difference. The person that's barely getting by, asking for forgiveness of college tuition, no sympathy at all. But this dude over here who owns a whole fucking bank, yeah, I feel your pain. We'll help you. You don't see anything to that? This dude who is losing his bank is never going to be homeless. Okay, maybe he's not a billionaire. Maybe he's only worth 20 million now. He'll be all right. The person who's saddled with student loan debt, they may never be able to afford a home. That's what we're talking about. That is exactly what we're talking about, what you just said. We have 5 jobs now due to inflation. Huh? I don't like the bank bailouts either. Well, you wouldn't have likely gotten them from a liberal. You're going to get them from somebody on the right. You're going to get them from somebody on the right. Should have thought about gas prices before you bought a damn car. Oh, I don't know where to go with that. All right, going back to the box. Let me see that Wolf moving the program on. I don't know what's going on with the box today, but it is problematic. We'll bring up, and I think it's Stephanie there. Let me see if I can make it happen. Show us your, okay, well, something just happened on the live stream with TikTok. All right, well, the live drop. We're going to be back out here today. 8 o'clock tonight, we will run a second program. For my YouTubers, the feed went down on TikTok. So appreciate you guys here. 33 likes. Some of you folks did smash that like button. 1 p.m. Central. We're here Monday through Friday. Feel free if you enjoy civilized dialogue from both sides of the aisle without any concern of the host trying to block, ban, or censor you. A subscription, if you will. Catch you tomorrow.